You settled in, starting to record?
Yeah. It feels weird because I've been like at recording studios where ads, like the voiceovers for ads were being recorded.
Yeah.
And we were directing that person, the voiceover person, to do what we wanted. But like to be on this end of it, it's kind of strange.
Yeah. Do you and your family need an enema kit? Get the family size of our Johnson enemy kits.
I don't think that's the same thing.
Enema kits. Yeah, enemy kits are very different. Yeah. Is your life boring and you need excitement? Buy an enemy kit. Mm-hmm. Grow your own bad guys. They'll sneak in your house at 2 a.m. and wake the kids. Yeah, that would be fun. That's something I would want. Like,
yeah, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I want danger, some kind of excitement. Well, I'm glad you could be here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's always fun. We could talk for hours pretty much all the time.
And we always do.
And we always do. Yeah, it's a good time. Yep. Something I always wanted to ask you, and I don't think we ever touched on this, is the catalyst, because earlier in your life, you were going through some things, and what for you is the catalyst that propelled you into wanting to get into like what you call the woo-woo stuff? Because you've really dove deep into that, but what is it that's kind of driving you to want to do that?
It's been a lot of things over time, and as a side note, I really don't like the term woo-woo because I think it makes people discredit it, and it's really easy to be like, oh, that woo-woo, that crazy person over there.
Well,
I don't like that.
When you and I are talking, you say woo-woo.
I know,
so I'm using your word.
I don't want. Yeah. I'm trying not to call it that anymore, just because I think it diminishes what it really is, and it's a very important thing to me. So I don't want to do that myself, and I just don't love hearing it described that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to do because some people perceive it as crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Well, what word would you use to describe some of this kind of spiritual?
Is it spiritual or esoteric or metaphysical? I don't know.
Okay. They used to call it New Age.
I mean, it's kind of New Age. What I am into is broader than that, I think. But
yeah,
I don't know. All those categories sort of blur together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always I felt like an outlier in terms of religion and spirituality and stuff, just because I grew up in a very like Christian community. There were so many Baptist churches where I grew up, and that was sort of the culture. So I always wanted to belong, and I went to church with so many friends, especially in elementary school. I went to many different churches and had some real bizarre experiences, and I always wanted to belong so badly, and I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, why can't I believe this thing that everybody else believes? And like, this is their normal thing and what they think is truth and the right thing. So what's wrong with me that I'm not buying it? So that was from a young age. That was kind of there. And then there was a book actually that I read, I think it was around 2011 or 2012, called Journey of Souls. And by Dr. Michael Newton. But that was the first book that I ever read that described kind of how I felt and what I believed. And it's the story of this hypnotherapist who kind of stumbled into doing past life regressions with his patients or clients. And eventually he ended up going back to life between the lives. So not just going back to like, the regression, usually it starts out going back to childhood, sometimes back to when you're a baby or in the womb.
Right.
And then you can go back to other lives. But what was kind of unusual that he wasn't even expecting was somebody went back to the portion between the life.
Yeah.
So then he got to learn about like each one of us is part of a soul group, and we have like this learning journey that we're on. And it was just really fascinating to me. And I had goosebumps all through the book because I was just like, yeah, it's like I was remembering it in a weird way.
Isn't there a movie about that? Remember in the 80s they had the like Live Again or Born Again or something like that, where the guy he meets this awesome girl, he dies, and then he goes to that in-between place.
Oh, yeah. And didn't he...
And then he came back as a younger guy, and then he wants to fall in love with her, but now she's like much older, you know.
Oh, okay.
Like 25 years
you're
has
thinking
gone.
of something else.
Yeah, 25 years has gone by, and then and she's like, well, it took a long time for him to convince her that he was him, but he remembered everything because in the in-between place he like made the angel forget what to reset the clock or something, whatever, and then so finally he convinces her it's him, but then she's like, well, what are we going to do? You know, I'm an old lady now and you're a young guy, so is this going to work? And then he ends up like getting with her daughter or something like that.
Interesting. I'm interested in what this movie is now.
I can't remember.
I want to watch it.
I don't, that's all I remember. It was something from the 80s. But there was a lot of that. There was the kid switches places with the dad. A lot of that kind of, I guess, metaphysical stuff, or I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
New age stuff. But yeah, anyway, go on.
There was an animated movie that came out in the last couple of years that makes me think a lot of what this book talks about. And there was a jazz musician in it as one of the main characters.
Yeah,
what was that
the
called?
Pixar movie.
Yeah.
What is that? He's
That was a great movie.
Soul.
Yeah.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this awesome part where the supreme being or whatever has the tree of life symbol. And he's like, are you God or are you whatever? And it's like, I'm many things. I am this. I am the all-encompassing something or other. And it showed the tree of life symbol. And then it showed a bunch of other symbols. It was like, oh, that is so cool that they like incorporated that into like a kid's movie, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess back to my story.
Yeah, go ahead. We're going to do a lot of this.
Yeah, that's fine. But so reading that book was... it was finally just confirmation that I'm not crazy. There's not really anything wrong with me, that I don't belong to this group of Christians or like the dominant culture where I grew up. Because there is an alternative. There are people out there who believe other things and have experienced other things. So maybe this is real after all.
Yeah.
So then it's like that gave me permission to kind of start exploring this stuff more. So then, and I think not too long before that, my uncle had gone through hypnosis training. And so that was like another step of like, oh, someone I know is doing something different.
Right.
So, and then he also sometimes sees spirits and does some like interesting spiritual things. And so like at first I thought, oh, I just have a crazy uncle. Like everybody has that. And now I'm realizing, no, he wasn't crazy. That stuff is real. So it was just step by step kind of normalizing it for myself, seeing other people and hearing what they believe and having my own experiences. And now just like I can feel spirits around me sometimes, or I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I
don't know if you have.
I can kind of sense a spirit in the room. Like one time I remember being at this meetup group thing and there was an empty chair sitting in the circle across from me. And my grandma Cora was there in that chair. And I'm like, does anybody else see her? It was really
You could
strange.
visually see her?
It's interesting. It's not like I'm seeing you right in front of me, but I see her in my head. She's not there, but like in that spot where the chair is, like I have a vision in my head of her.
But so this is the question then, is that a manifestation of your imagination, your feelings, and your love for your grandma, and the connection you remember having with her, and then so you're imagining, oh, there's my grandma Cora in this empty chair. So then, I don't know, it just makes you feel good, versus a physical energy or some kind of energy, whatever word you want to use, but some kind of energy that is actually representative of her. Like, have you considered, it being one or the other?
I think it's possible. It is possible that it's all in my imagination. But even if it is, like, what's the harm?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It makes life more fun for me because I like look around and it's magical, and I think that's fun. I want to live that way. Yeah.
No, I love it. We'll get into some of this later, but there's some things in life that help remind you of the magic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much of like children imagining their friend on a red bicycle, and it's my little imaginary friend or something. And we think, oh, that's cute. That's just a little kid thing or something. And then we grow up and we kind of forget to just be imaginative, to be creative, to just enjoy life and see the magic and everything, because bills, because jobs, because whatever other bullshit is out there. We just kind of forget. So yeah, I like that. I like that viewpoint that it doesn't matter if it is the actual manifestation of that person's existence, or if it's in the imagination. I don't know.
I have another thought about that, but first I just want to say, isn't it so funny that whenever we're kids, all we want to do is grow up and be an adult, and then when we're adults,
Yes.
all we want to do
Yes.
is be kids and have nap time again and play all day.
Oh God, yeah. I love the midday nap.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I miss the midday nap. Yeah, just go outside and play. I do that with my daughter.
Cool.
We have this thing that it's nothing amazing, other than that it is amazing, that we just go outside. I have this little acupressure ball. You know what I'm talking about? It's got the little bumps on it.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. And I just roll out, do the hips, do the back or whatever. But she'll be like, let's go play catch. And we go play catch with this little foam ball that doesn't really go that far. So we can't be that far away. And we'll just go out on the deck. And you saw it. It's like 20 feet, 25 foot deck. And we'll just throw it back and forth. And we're just playing catch. And we're just hanging out outside. And we're not on our phone. We're not doing anything else. We're just hanging out, talking to each other. We're just kind of being kids. And then while we're doing it, we're just talking about life, just talking about stuff. And it's a good time to just let down your hair and talk, I guess. Yeah.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, that's good.
Back to your point about, does it hurt anything if I think or imagine I see my grandma, her spirit there, or like, does it have to be true or real?
Yeah.
And I've kind of been contemplating this for a while because I heard somebody else online talk about beliefs and not buying into things or not accepting a belief because it's true necessarily, but evaluate its usefulness in your life. Because a lot of beliefs, you can prove it one way or another. Like, there's so much evidence out there for everything. You can find evidence to support your position.
Yeah.
So is believing that useful to you in your life?
But then you start, that raises a question for me of what is truth? Because if for you believe this thing and it's useful for you for whatever you're doing, but it's actually not a real thing, then yeah, you're right. Is it harming anybody? No. But because I have my own background in religion, and I have, that, and I have my own experiences there that I won't go into right now, but there is an extent to where a belief in a thing that may not necessarily be true can be harmful to people if it becomes this like big mega thing, right? But let's narrow it down to just the individual experience. So if you believe a thing that may or may not be true, sure, you can argue it's not hurting anybody. But then the question is, well, when you lived your life, were you just believing in things that aren't true? You know what I mean?
Well, I can see it from the perspective that, like, whatever percentage of the world, at least half believe in God, and how many wars over the ages were fought in the name of God, and there's no objective proof one way or the other for or against God.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it can be taken to extremes, sure. And I'm not asking anyone else to believe what I believe. I think everybody else needs to determine for themselves what they believe and what's true for them. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be what I believe,
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly not. Yeah, it's just an interesting thought exercise of like the thing that I'm choosing to practice or believe or incorporate into my life. Yes, it's enriching my own life and providing value, and maybe even to the people around me. But then, yeah, I guess it doesn't matter.
Well, and I kind of,
that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, part of how I got here, and I'm still playing with this idea. It's not like a set thing. It's just something I'm considering right now, and I'm finding it like useful. So, yeah. But I've spent a lot of time searching for the truth in my life. And that can take a lot of time and energy that I could be using to actually live my life and do other things that I enjoy and, I want to grow and expand and do different things. And if all I'm doing is searching for truth, then I'm just looking outside of myself to read a book or find a guru who has the truth, which is not the point.
Yeah, well, I think you're being a little hard on yourself. Like, it's absolutely not what I've seen in your life. I've known you for, a number 9-10 years, and that's not what I've seen from you. Like, the search for truth is for sure something we all do, and I think that does bring value to your life in that you're searching for substance, meaning, and I think we all do that. What I have always appreciated about you is that you are openly and actively doing that. And where some people are just happy to just do their thing and they don't care one way or the other. And you can observe a stale existence in people like that. But for people like yourself that are constantly, this is your life, this is what you do, and you say you're not living your life, but I would argue that that is living your life, and that it is the pursuit of the experience of the journey of the knowledge. And that's the whole thing of like Star Trek, right? Is like, it's the pursuit of the great unknown, the last final frontier. It's the thing of like, I'm pursuing the thing I don't know, and I want to know, I want to understand, I want to seek. And so that's what I've seen from you. So I don't know. When I was hearing you talk, it was like, no, you're selling yourself short on that.
Where does it come from? Where does your search for truth come from? Is it from curiosity and wanting to explore your world? Or is it because, and I think this is where I used to come from in that pursuit, which of course I'm still searching for the truth and mostly looking inward for that now. But, before, it was coming from a place of, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to go find somebody else who knows the truth. Somebody else who can tell me some other book. Surely there's a book out there that can tell me what I want to know and tell me the truth. So it was kind of coming from a place of lack instead of just pure curiosity and like, this is part of how I live my life, is just learning.
Yeah. Which
that is a part of me and, always has been. I'm sure it always will be.
Yeah, I think we were talking last night. I think it makes in some ways life a little more difficult because you can't just be happy with what you have. And I need to kind of fix that phrasing, because you can be happy, but contentness, I guess, is like what I have. I'm not going to be happy with the rest of my life if this is all it is. I want to pursue more. I want to learn more. I want to grow and advance and innovate and become a better person. And I think that is, I think that's the point. I think that's the whole thing, is that you don't stay stagnant, you don't stay stale, or you don't stay where you're at, because then you become stagnant, you become stale. And so by continuing to stretch and be exposed to things that maybe make you uncomfortable, that's part of the growth, I think.
Yeah. And the whole thing about being happy in your life, part of it is just perception, and part of it is like, what does my soul need for me to feel satisfied? Can I just be satisfied doing this 8-to-5 job and sitting in a cubicle all day?
Yeah.
For some people, the answer is yes, because they love that job and they love the people they're with and whatever. For me, the answer was no. So it depends on the person, really. Not everybody is here to do all these crazy, adventurous, wild things that like you and I like to do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's hard not to have that mindset that when you see people that are happy with their office job, they're happy with the coworkers, I'm sure people get great fulfillment out of that. And I can do that for a short time. Mm-hmm. I can exist in that world and things are great. But at some point I'm like, why are there things not exploding around me? Why is there not any gunfire? Like, what is something's wrong here? I need something to explode, the building to be on fire. I need to fall. I need to be climbing a cliff, jumping off a cliff, out of an airplane. Like, I need something like that. And so
you need your life to be threatened in some way.
Right. Absolutely. So with those things, I feel great. I kind of feel fulfilled. But, those things in a vacuum, they're great for temporary thing. And I think the same thing with the cubicle job. I think in a vacuum, like, I can sustain that kind of existence for a short time, but what's the purpose of it? The why is so massive to me. Mm-hmm. Why am I doing this? Why am I jumping out of this airplane or training on weapons or doing anything, right? Like that's all to serve some kind of later purpose, preparedness, right, for the eventual zombie apocalypse that we all know is going to happen, right? So, but the office job, at some point, I begin to lose the purpose.
Well, it really depends on what your core values are, because one of your core values is not safety and stability.
Thanks.
I'm just stating facts after having known you.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe stability is on your list somewhere, but it's not in the top 5. You know, for some people, that's more important than anything else.
What is this list of core values? Like, is this a known list?
Oh, no, I'm just hypothetically. This is part of a lot of personal development work that I think it's a really great place to start, really, is just, you know, if things are mediocre in your life or you're not feeling great about things, sit down and just really think about what's important to you. And then that can direct you where you need to go from where you are. Because you can look at your life and evaluate it based on, like, I value experience as an adventure. How much of that am I getting in my life right now?
Right.
And what can I do to start moving in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. Experience in general, is that what you're saying? Just new experience?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think having I flipped that on its head. Like, having adventures is part of the experience of living. Like, without adventures, then, you know, what is the experience that I'm having in my life?
That's your experience of living.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What other values would you say? Because you say safety and stability is not like a value system. So even if there's not a list, like, what are some other things you've identified in life that are good values, or values in general?
It's not the same across the board for everyone. Like, this is a very personalized list, and it might change depending on, you know, your circumstances in life and how old you are and just what's going on. But like, for me, spirituality is high at the top of my list of values. And things like love and passion, just doing things in my life that I can feel that, instead of just like going through the motions and, you know, going to this job, working on a spreadsheet and whatever. There's no passion in that. So, you know, I'm moving in that direction myself, which is why, you know, I went the entrepreneurial route. But so those are some, like, a lot of people, integrity, that's pretty high up on my list. I need to reevaluate my list. I actually haven't looked at it in a while, but yeah, those are
for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a good guideline to just keep evaluating, like, what's important to me right now. And am I doing that? Or if not, like, what can I do to change that? Yeah.
Yeah. After you kind of went on this journey of seeing that your uncle was into hypnosis, and you kind of felt like it was safe to explore these things, do you feel like it was work to try to get into these things, to explore? Because I've noticed there's been a progression of things. And when you're going through these next things that you experience, you know, every couple of years, every few years, do you feel like it's the stretch of the new experience, or there's more of like a joy and it's like an easy thing to do?
It's very easy and joyful, and it's a really fun exploration for me. Yeah. Most of the work I've done, I've gone to classes, I've gotten Reiki attunements, and you know, I've gone to all kinds of workshops and learned a bunch of different modalities. But it really has been a natural progression, and most of the work has been reprogramming my subconscious and just like getting rid of all the crap in my head that makes me think that it's not okay for me to live my life in this way. So once I can like clear all that clutter out, then it's like I'm more open to it, and experiences just present themselves to me.
Yeah.
Like one time, this was the first time I ever, this might sound crazy to some of your listeners and maybe even to you, but now that you know I saw my grandma's spirit, you know,
no, it's totally
we're already
cool.
here.
It's all right.
But, so I was doing yoga in my living room one day, and laying in Shavasana, you know, so very relaxed and meditative. And in my head, I heard this noise and I knew it was coming from this corner of the living room. And I'm like, what in the world is that? And I opened my eyes and my eyes were just immediately drawn over there. And a plant was crying at me because it needed water.
What?
Yeah. And it was like I was open to that. And so I experienced it. And then
what did it sound like?
It sounded like crying.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of like a low scream a little bit.
Well, a scream is different than a cry.
I don't know. It was between a scream and a cry, but it was just very odd. And that was the first time I'd ever experienced that.
Like a wail, like, ah.
Yeah.
What?
Kind of like that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. I still have that plant in my bedroom now. And it's like, I don't know. I have a special kinship to it.
You know, I'm really interested to see like what we're going to learn about plants, you know, in the next 20, 30, 50 years, whatever, because we've known that trees have a network of roots. We've known that like a fungal, like a mycelial network, they transmit information. And they highlighted this in the movie Avatar, like they talked about this, but this is something that was like kind of on the forefront of science when they came out with this movie, or at least when they were writing it. But like trees are talking to each other and they're transmitting nutrients, they're transmitting information to each other. So you could argue that that's like a hardline network because they're physically connected. Mm-hmm. But maybe they have a Wi-Fi version too.
Well, there have been
wireless communication.
There have been people who I don't know how this works, but somehow they electronically hook something up to a plant or a mushroom or whatever, and that converts into sound because it's emitting some kind of vibration or something that they create songs out of. Yeah,
they're definitely. John, can you pull this up? See if there's what's the name of there's that device sounds coming from trees, electronic device, something like it's like a YouTube video or something. But there's this device that you're talking about. That's it. This is it right here. Artist invents device that can listen to plant music. Let's listen to this for a second. We've got.
You're gonna listen to this vine sing right now. Let's hear it play some music.
Do you have the mic channel on? Okay. So this is it right here.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
I really enjoy listening to philodendron and snake plants.
Can you make this full screen?
Along the way on a hike with a beautiful view. Let's tune into the sounds played by this plant. We just attach two sensors to a plant.
It sounds like a symphony, like warming up before the performance or something, but like an EDM symphony, right?
I love EDM, so it's great.
Yeah.
Translate them into pitch, and then run those pitch messages through instruments that we design. So the result is this continuous stream of pleasing music that gives us all this sonic window into the secret life of plants. Many of you have been asking, what would a redwood tree sound like? Let's see what
a redwood tree
creates when we connect the plant wave.
Wow.
That's amazing. It's affected by sunlight and water. The sounds are?
Is that what it said?
Yeah.
I missed that part.
So maybe that plant really, truly was screaming or wailing.
Yeah.
We have a plant here that may not have made it through this heat.
Oh, so this is a dead plant. Dead plants can't sing. Dead men tell no tales.
Right.
So he's watering it. And then what does it make a different sound?
So here we are listening to this rubber tree. And now let's check out this pothos.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, it is cool because now you can stop that. Now it's like you can have an audible relationship with your plants, and the plants like in your house or around your yard.
And it has been shown that talking or singing to your plants does help them grow better.
Yeah, I've heard of like you play like classical music to your plants or something and they grow stronger or greener or whatever.
And one of the most powerful nutrients in the universe. You want to guess what it is?
Love.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's
I knew you were going to do something like that.
It's kind of cliche, but like that's true. Because if you're talking to your plant, like I know whenever I had a bunch of plants, I started naming them because I was really struggling to get the watering right and whatever. And then I just started naming them and it became more fun. And they did start growing better, partially because I was paying more attention and doing what they needed.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's true of children too. Like there was an observational study of an orphanage in Eastern Europe where they had babies there that had all the food that they could need and they weren't growing because they were in an orphanage and they had no love.
Whoa.
But a child can be malnourished, but as long as it's loved, it will still be healthy and thrive.
Whoa, really?
Mm-hmm.
So the love is more valuable than a good meal.
Right.
That's interesting.
I mean, obviously, as humans, except for the breatharian people out there, but most of us need food and water and stuff.
For the what people?
Breatharian?
What is this?
Do you know any? You don't know anything about this?
I think you told me about it. Breatharian. Let's see these guys.
It's people who live off of air. They don't eat, or some of them supposedly don't drink water either. I don't know the validity or the truth of any of this stuff, but supposedly it's possible.
Let's see. Do you have something there?
This couple survived on just cosmic energy.
What?
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be surviving on air and sunlight, essentially.
This couple survives on cosmic energy.
But if you think about...
I'm sorry. Look at these guys. There's no way.
If you think about...
You know, they're slipping some chips in the middle of the night.
Right.
They're getting a hot dog every now and then.
But master yogis do all kinds of incredible things, or just, people who meditate of, any different religion or spiritual persuasion or whatever. Like, there are a lot of amazing things that happen because of the practice of meditation or just putting your mind to something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know.
No, I absolutely find value in the discipline of the mind. You can absolutely control whether or not you're going to be shivering in cold water or you're going to be able to function. Military does a lot of water training for that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. The disciplined mind can overcome a lot of things, but I mean, there's a thing where like, I think there's a good amount of studies done on fasting, and like past the 40-day mark of not eating food, like you are dying. Like you're at a point to where your body's cannibalizing itself and things are starting to break down. Functionality of the body is going to slip. I mean, how long so I know I'm a naysayer in this conversation, but like how long are people going these breatharians without eating?
I have no idea. I don't know a whole lot about this. I find it really interesting, and the possibility just piques my curiosity.
Yeah.
Like maybe. How do I know?
See if you can find out how long people go breatharians without eating.
I mean, I think that's the way they live their life.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's just a practice like a 40-day fast or something, a set period of time. I don't know.
I think it was you or someone else that we were talking about a yogi dude in India, lived in the mountains, Himalayan kind of thing, and he meditated so much and ate so little that he basically ascended into energy. Was that you that talked to me about
Probably. That sounds like something I would talk about.
It's probably you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You hear stories like that and you're like, okay, there's so much sci-fi out there. There's so much, stuff that you can find on these tabloids and everything. Like, is that real? Because you see like kung fu masters and their followers are like, yeah, he threw a fireball and stuff like that. And then you have people that come in and just check the validity of that, and there's just never a fireball on thing. Like the same thing about ghosts or spirits. Like they've had these ghost shows for years. They've never captured one ghost. There's never been one ghost they've ever seen, because that would have been, hey, we actually found a ghost. Or
well, how do you capture something that's like ether?
You get the Ghostbusters thing. You slide it under him and it opens up and sucks him in. Yeah, that's come on, everyone knows that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I don't know how you do it. I'm just saying, there's people that are devoted to this, and they would have found it by now.
Well, a lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with your perception, and you see what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm looking for these things. I feel like
But you're doubting.
For sure, I'm a skeptic. I don't think there's a problem with that.
There's a difference between like being a person who's curious and doesn't have an agenda to prove one way or another, and you're just coming to it with an open mind just to see what happens, versus coming to see, I don't really think this is true. I'm gonna come and find out, but I don't think it's true.
It depends on what it is. I think you're right. I think you've highlighted something in my own life. Like, I have to have the right kind of perspective coming into a new experience or new learning, before shutting it down. Be open to whatever it is and checking it out. And you're right, that creates the best experience, because then you're not going in with a preconceived notion. You're not judging ahead of time without seeing it. The effect of, we do that internally, I think, and then people do that. That happens externally. Like, if I'm going to go try a new sandwich place, and you tell me, you know what, it's too oily, it's too whatever, the bread is soggy, I'm going to go in with that impression, because you've already tainted my viewpoint of a thing I've never even tried.
And so now you're looking for all the negative things.
Yeah, I'm looking for the thing you mentioned, rather than just, hey, I'm going to try a new sandwich shop and check it out.
Right.
Yeah. So what you talked about modalities earlier, like when you're working with clients, what are the modalities that you've seen, if any, that maybe are more successful in helping people than others?
Everything, every tool that I use is effective for someone at some point.
Okay.
There's not one thing that works well across the board, even for the same person over time. I switch between different modalities just with myself, because different things work better for different situations, or just the the angle that I want to look at something from. It's best explored through this one particular avenue. So it really, sessions with clients, just there's not one set structure of how it goes. The client shows up and I'm there, I listen to them, and it's kind of a little bit intuitively led. But also, if the client asks for something that they're aware of, we can go that route too.
Yeah, so starting out, there's not like a baseline level of treatment, I guess. Is that the right word? Or
treatment is not the right word, because I'm not licensed. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I can't treat. So it's just working with someone.
It's funny.
I know.
I don't want to get like lost on this topic, but it's just so funny that like it's just a word, man. Like,
I know.
I'm not saying that I'm a doctor.
But treatment implies cure and all that stuff, so that can get legally messy.
Well, you could say that you treat your clients, and then when they come and scrutinize it, you could be like, well, I bake some sourdough bread.
Treat them to a good time.
I treat them I treat them to some snacks,
Right.
I make your coconut bars. I treat them to some homemade food. Like, that's what I was talking about. I never said I treated them for illnesses or
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just wordplay. It's fun, but
speaking of wordplay, a lot of how a person talks about a situation can indicate how they're subconsciously thinking about it, and so that it can be really helpful with directing how we explore that. So
how so?
One of my favorites, and I use this all the time. It's kind of a new obsession, or I don't know if I want to call it obsession, but I've just been exploring it a lot. Is something called internal family systems. And some therapists use this, but a lot of coaches do too. But it's for situations where it's like, part of me wants to stay in this nice, stable job where I have a good paycheck and whatever, even though my soul is dying. Part of me wants to stay there. And this other part of me really longs to have the adventure and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So you are split into two separate parts. So then you can do internal family systems, which is sometimes called parts work. And you can kind of anthropomorphize these parts. And so this can be a certain kind of character. So you have the person, think about what this part of you looks like. And sometimes it's a shape, a color, or sometimes it's a person. For me, sometimes it's a cartoon. because my guides have been trying to get me to lighten up and like not take things so seriously. So they give me cartoon images to kind of convey that. But it can look like anything, and you can name it. And then once you have kind of identified this part, then you can talk to it. And it's really fascinating what comes out.
Yeah, when you're describing that, I'm picturing the old cartoons where the angel is on one shoulder and the devil's on the other.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
It's amazing how you look at older stuff, and I'm like, well, they're actually using a lot of this stuff that we're talking about today in the 2020s about modalities and treatments and not treatments. Sorry, helping hands. I don't know. Sorry, these are my mistakes, not yours. But yeah, I mean, you're anthropomorphizing the difficult decision of the cartoon guy trying to decide if he should shoot Bugs Bunny or not, and whatever, save the animal or have something to eat later on.
And I think it just helps depersonalize the situation, so you can see it, you can step back from it a little bit. Yeah. Because if it's not you personally, it's like this part of me, then it's there's not as much struggle or inner conflict there because you're looking at something outside of you.
Yeah, would you say it's to the extent you're dissociating from the experience?
I'm not sure I would call it dissociating, but it's just it's kind of that same step back that regular meditation gives you. You get to become the observer of your thoughts instead of the person thinking them.
Yeah.
It's that same idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's all like short term before you actually make a decision. Is that essentially it? Like you're trying to make a decision about a thing?
Oh, it doesn't have to be related to a decision. It can just be an issue that's causing you a lot of internal struggle, which, we have a lot of stress that lives in our bodies just because we have these internal struggles and we don't know what to do in our lives or in this particular situation. But once you start talking to these two different parts, you realize like this part of me that wants to be or that likes the corporate job and the stability and whatever, it just wants me to be safe. It's trying to take care of me so that I can do what I came here to Earth to do. And this other part that's adventurous and everything, it wants me to go out and experience things in this life because that's what I came here to do. Mm-hmm. So in the end, they want the same thing. It's just helping the parts of you see that. And that way they don't have to fight with each other anymore.
Yeah. What would you say about a person? There's been a movie about this one guy. There was like a kid that he was 19 or 20 or something, and he went out to Alaska and literally just lived off the land. He ended up dying out there. But they made a movie about this kid, but it's like people that are so into the wild.
Yeah.
That's it. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a cool movie.
It was.
Yeah, just to watch someone, because you're describing two kind of personalities, and we're generalizing,
right.
An individual, an imaginary individual here, but like,
I mean, these are parts that I've worked with in myself.
Yeah, we're talking about you, but I think we're talking about just a lot of people that kind of experience this.
Sure.
The balance and kind of the struggle of trying to find cohabitation of both existences. Mm-hmm. But this kid, like, what are your thoughts on people that are just cut the cord completely on society and go to the full extreme of the adventure? Yeah.
I think that's cool for some people. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go live by myself.
Yeah.
I went on a camping trip for a week by myself, and I always thought I liked to be alone until I did that for a week. And then I just wanted to be around people again.
What did you experience? Like, how did you feel being alone?
There was a lot of fear, really. I've always been more on the introverted side, so I like my alone time a lot and I really need it.
Yeah.
But when it's just me out there in the wilderness, on the one hand, it's amazing and I love it. And the quiet is so refreshing and so nice. So there's that part of it, but then also fear because I didn't feel like I completely knew what I was doing or knew what I was getting myself into. And there was nobody there that could help save me if something were to happen. And also seeing all these amazing things, I didn't have anyone to share it with. So I didn't realize until then how important that part of it is to me.
Yeah, the sharing is absolutely valuable. Like even if I'm it's a different kind of situation, but if I go to the rifle range, like I'll go to this tactical range where they have a bay, and I can do all my stuff, weapon transitions, and shoot as fast as I want and do however crazy stuff I want to do, right? It's like my bay. I can do whatever I want in that bay. So if I go train and I'm there by myself, yeah, I'm getting some good cycles in and stuff, but I'm not sharing the experience with somebody. So if I have a shooting partner and we can run drills together, then it's like that person can provide critique and feedback, and I can help them. And now I can observe when I see a person make a mistake. I know what that looks like, and we're sharpening the skills. And so it's a more enriched experience than if I'm going alone. I'm still getting cycles alone, but
Right.
it's not the same. It's like going around the world to like travel somewhere and sit on the beach in Thailand, and you're like, but you went by yourself. It's still awesome. You're still on a beach in Thailand, but
what am I doing here?
right.
Yeah.
What was the fear?
Oh, so I went to Sequoia National Forest, which was amazing, and I'm so glad I went. But there are signs everywhere about bears.
Uh-huh.
And I really wanted to see a bear, but I was also very afraid. I wanted to see it from far off in the distance, you know, just to say that I saw a bear.
Right.
And I wanted to see the size of it in real life. But there are signs everywhere because there has been a real problem over the last 100 years of people who come to that national park they feed the bears.
Yeah.
And so now the bears, generation after generation, have learned that people equal food. Like people have food, not necessarily, you know, that the people are the food. Yeah. I hope not. But so those bears in that area in particular they're used to humans being around. So they can tend to get a little closer than bears in the wild in other parts of the country.
Yeah. Do they have, John, were there statistics on Sequoia National Park, like bear experiences, bear attacks or anything like that? Just wave your hand if you get anything. But I went to Olympic National Park. So this is in Washington. You know Ryan. So I went with Ryan and some of his dudes from high school. Olympic National Park hiking trip, backpacking trip. So we're in the back country, like way miles back behind anything, which is amazing. We were covering 12 to 15 miles a day, just putting some real distance on our legs, and that felt great. I was like in my prime hiking shape at the time.
Yeah, that's a lot of mileage in a day.
I was so far ahead of these guys because they get tired and stuff. And so we kind of agreed like, hey, this is where we're going to camp. And if one guy kind of falls behind and just wants to do a nature walk and look around, like go for it. We're going to go ahead of that guy. Right. So there was like 5 of us. And so I hauled ass, man. I was just like, in the military, we call it humping a pack. So I'm like humping so far ahead of these guys. I'm like an hour ahead of them. And, because I'm just like, yeah, get it. And I'm like in the zone, and I had an edible, and I'm just like rocking out, man. This is great. And so I'm so far ahead that I'm by myself. I mean, we're in the back country. There's nobody there except us. And then I look off to the right. I'm about to turn left, like to split trails, about to turn left. And there's a black bear just sitting there.
Oh, wow.
Eating something off a tree.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not trying to be quiet because I'm walking fast. So he probably heard me coming a while back. And so he's just munching on some stuff. And he looks over at me and he's like, "What's up, dude?" And he goes back to eating. And we just kind of look at each other, and I'm like, "Holy fuck, you're a black bear." Like we're not far away. I mean, we're maybe 30 feet away from each other.
Oh, wow.
And we're looking, the lower half of his body is covered, but the upper half, I can see all of him, and we're just like, and I'm on the open trail, and I'm like, if this dude wants to dash after me, like, I don't have a lot of choices, and what I'm going to do. And so we just look at each other, had this moment, we're like, "Hey, I see you, you see me." And he's like, "All right, go back to eating." And that was it. And I was like, what a moment, dude.
That's really cool. Did any of the other guys see it?
No, again, I was an hour ahead of them.
Okay.
So when we finally got to camp and they caught up, I sat down, I cooked food. I made a whole meal. I sat down, I set up my tent. I was chilling. And by the time they showed up, I was like, "Hey guys, at this one part, did you see a black bear? Did you see it?" And they're like, "No, we didn't see it." So it had already, ate its food and left or something. But what do you have, what do you got here, man?
Not much violence. A couple of years ago, someone was nudged awake.
Someone's nudged awake by a bear?
Oh my gosh.
Holy shit. Can you imagine
How
sleeping
scary.
and a bear's like, hey, dude, give me some food? Stepped on?
Oh, wow.
Let's
That
see.
poor man.
Officials report that the 25-year-old man from Santa Cruz was in the Potwisha campground 4 miles from the park's main entrance when he was nudged awake by the bear about 7:30 a.m. Wake up, bitch. Give me some food. The man woke up. The bear stepped on the man who ran away from the bear. How did that work? The bear stepped on him.
And then he ran
away. Okay. Other campers told rangers that they banged pots and pans to scare the bear away. Although the man wasn't attacked, he reportedly suffered a minor puncture wound and cuts to his back. Wow. Maybe the claw when he stepped on him.
I bet those are really sharp.
Which may have occurred from the bear's claws. Yeah, if I just read the thing instead of speculating. Occurred from the bear's claws scratching him when it stepped on him. He declined medical attention, the Park Service reported. Okay. Yeah, so if that's the worst thing, I mean, that's not terrible.
Yeah, that's still pretty scary. But I mean, bears weren't the only thing I was afraid of, but that was definitely a big one just because there were signs everywhere about bears.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one thing because bears used to just eat people, and I think they've gotten in a way domesticated where they're just used to us, and that we are not the food, but we are a food source, and so the bear's probably waking. Hey, dude, wake up! Open up your picnic basket.
Give me some Twinkies.
Let's give me some Twinkies. Bears probably would eat a Twinkie.
I'm sure they would
Sugar?
eat anything.
Yeah, depends on the time of year too. Like, did it say what time of year that was? Was it summer?
The article's from June.
Okay, so they've already come out of their spring time. They're already done hibernating, so they've already kind of stopped eating grass and they're getting a regular food source. So now they're just eating anything that tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
June, yeah, especially in Sequoia, they've already come out of hibernation a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's worse the closer you get to hibernation season because they're trying to fatten up, right?
yeah. If they just come out of hibernation, especially if they have a cub, I mean, you're done, man. They're gonna come after you because they're starving. Not starving, but they're ready to eat. I think they lose 30% of their body mass.
Wow.
Like full adult bears,
Mm-hmm.
they lose a massive amount of weight, and they don't have a lot of energy. But if you present yourself and you're right in front of like a mother bear they came out of hibernation, I think it's gonna be a bad day.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
would be a bad day.
But when they're coming out, there's still some frost, I think. I think they're just looking to eat grass, and they're maybe going to try to find some fish or something. But, you're not going to be I don't think you'd be backpacking in the backcountry anyway if it's that cold out.
Yeah, maybe not.
It still freezes at night, I think. So maybe you're not going to be out there anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
so chances of encountering a bear in that situation, unless you're just like a real hard ass to get out there and be in the elements at that time of year, you're probably not going to be having that experience, even if you're like a avid backpacker, hiker person.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
But again, with the perception, like all the signs in the park made me look for the bears.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm not
So-
minimizing it at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just talking
Mhm.
about bears.
Yeah.
What did you is that the only solo trip that you've ever done?
I think I did a weekend camping trip that was a lot closer to home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't done too much on my own because I have always had people to go with. And that trip to Sequoia was supposed to be with another person, but he had a back injury at the time, so just didn't end up being able to go.
Yeah.
And I had already scheduled time off work and all that, so I didn't want to skip it.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, I'm going. I got the flight booked and the whole
Mm-hmm.
vacation time going.
But then it was just me, and I had never built my own campfire. I had never done all these things all on my own. And so it was just
You're used to me building the fire.
partially that. Yeah. So it was just all new experiences and like, I hope I do this right. And,
Yeah. Well, I remember you telling me the story. I mean, it sounded like everything went well.
it really did. The worst part of it was that at night it got much, much colder than I was expecting. And the sleeping pad I had at the time was not adequate for that temperature.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying a blanket at the visitor center there, and that didn't even help at all.
Yeah.
So I think I cut my trip a day or two short just because it got too cold.
Yeah.
Like kind of cold I like for sleeping, but it was beyond that.
Yeah, I've learned some painful lessons about like the heat transfer, like the body or the ground sucks the heat out of your body.
Oh yeah.
There's a name for that. I know it's like a heat transfer, but there's like an actual convection, something. But anyway, we were doing some training in the field and learned a lot. I said the Marine Corps, right?
No.
Oh, I'm like, I hope that I said it. Anyway, military training, doing a lot of training in the Marine Corps. We're in the field doing some training, and I'm a desert Marine. Like, that's deployed to Iraq, trained in the desert, in the high mountains, like, just, that's all my training. So it does definitely get cold at night, but it's different when you're in, like, a forest and it gets cold at night.
Oh,
just
yeah.
a different kind of cold. It's like a dank, wet cold and just sucks more. So we're in one of those situations. And I thought, we're just going to be out here for a couple days, so I'm not going to bother bringing all my, like, sleeping gear. And
I bet you regretted that.
I don't know. It's one of those, like, retarded moments of my life where I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, it was 25 degrees out that night, the first night, and I had my sleeping bag. I had my the bivy sack that goes over, the waterproof sack that goes over the sleeping bag. I had my sweatpants and, some basic stuff, but that's good if it's like 50 degrees out, 40 degrees out, 25 degrees out. I didn't have my tent, so I didn't sleep on the ground. I got in the back of a Humvee. What's a Humvee made out of? Metal. I had no sleeping pad.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. I had no sleeping pad, and all night long, I'm just getting the life sucked out of me, man. I mean, I feel like it's literally draining out of my body, out of the floor into the Humvee. And I get up that next morning. Well, first of all, my legs were numb. I would rub my legs long enough to where they stopped tingling, to where I could stop feeling like they were painfully numb, and then rub them long enough so that I could go back to sleep, wake up like 30 minutes later with them numb and freezing again. And then that happened all night long.
That sounds terrible.
So I woke up the next morning and I looked like a fucking ghoul. I just, like I saw someone, I looked in the mirror of the Humvee. I looked like I aged like 40 years. I mean, I just gray face, just no color in my skin. I mean, I was probably hypothermic. I don't know, but
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of suck it up and get a cup of coffee and everything. But I remember my captain at the time. Shout out to Captain Mosley. I remember my captain at the time was like, dude, you don't look good. I was like, yeah, I mean, I slept in the back of the Humvee, and then he told me, and this is where you learn stuff. I'm like, I'm a full-grown adult, and I still don't know this, but he like tells me like, oh, you got to get like your sleeping pad because the metal drained your energy out and blah, blah, blah. We got in the conversation. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess I knew that, but I didn't actually experience it because
right.
I'm an idiot and I don't ever learn lessons by people telling me. I have to experience the failure.
I mean, most of us do that, don't we?
Yeah. What do you attribute any specific part of your journey to creating the biggest leaps in your progress of spirituality, of self-healing, of just becoming who you are now?
There have been several things, really, and a lot of these happened in similar time frames, so it's hard to say what was the one thing. I mean, psychedelics have had a massive impact, so that is probably at the top of the list. But then meditation for sure has had a big impact, and also Psych-K, which is one of the modalities that I had talked about.
Yeah.
So all of those really have just given me insights that I would not have had otherwise in just my regular daily life. And I put some really big things together, like in my head, like the puzzle pieces started to fit when I started working with these things.
Yeah. I know you favor mushrooms over anything else. What would you say that there is within the realm of dosing with mushrooms? Would you say that there's one memory, one trip that was like, that's the most memorable, the most biggest leap that you've made in terms of like revelation, perspective change?
Two immediately come to mind. And the first one was, it happened around a time I was really struggling to love myself, honestly. And I had a lot of things going on in my life that I really wasn't happy with. And I couldn't understand why I just couldn't fix it or change it or whatever. So I was beating myself up a lot, not giving myself any credit. And the day of this journey that I had been talking on the phone to my mom about, like, she was trying to pump me up and saying all these amazing things about me. And I just had the thought, I wish I could see myself through your eyes, because she can see me with so much love and admiration and whatever.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it at the time. So that night I was working with mushrooms, went into this journey, and I got to experience that. And it was one of the most amazing things ever, because it was like I was in the middle of this circle of all the people closest to me, my family, my friends, people who had loved me or knew me in my life at different points. And I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it now, but it was such a cool experience, because I was in the middle receiving all the love, but at the same time, I was the other people on the outside too, looking at myself and loving myself.
Wow.
So I was having like both of the experiences.
Wow. Wow, that's got to be really powerful.
Very.
You're experiencing the emotion of receiving the love, and you're experiencing the feeling of giving the love simultaneously.
Yeah.
Man, that's got to be incredible.
It was so, so powerful. And it really did help me to see myself differently.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. I've had some really amazing journeys with you and alone with some other people, but just, the perspective change, I think, is the biggest thing that takes place, is like that experience where you're just experiencing what it is to what your mom sees in you. Mm-hmm. And for you to experience that and actually see that viewpoint. For me, I've had a number of experiences where like that perspective change, just I'm feeling a certain way about a certain relationship. One that comes to mind is like my dad, and just the anger that I felt for years about that. And, that place out in Oklahoma, I forget the lake name, but where we did all the climbing.
Wichita Mountains?
Yeah.
That area?
The Wichitas, but what's that lake called?
Oh, I can't remember it.
It's Mount Scott. Mm-hmm. And then the lake is...
Levon?
No,
I don't know.
Anyway.
That's a Texas lake, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, anyway.
Not important.
yeah, exactly. But that's where I had the trip, and we're by the lake, and the view is amazing there. And but I just had this intense experience where I empathized. It's kind of a similar thing where I saw his viewpoint. I saw life through his eyes about the experiences he had when he was younger, and the tools or the lack of tools that he had to be a father, to be a man, to be whatever. And it helped me understand that his failures weren't necessarily intentional. It's just he's a product of his own environment and environmental conditioning. And I very much think about environmental conditioning when I think like of a person. Genetic predisposition is only a portion of it. I think the majority of what we are is environmental conditioning. And I look at his environment that I know of, and I'm like, okay, I can empathize with him. I can understand him. And because I can do that, now I don't feel so angry at him anymore. Because I see him now as not this icon where he has to be my dad, he has to be perfect, and everything has to be amazing and whatever, right? And we have these expectations of our parents, and they're just people, and we're all fucked up sometimes, and we all need help. And shame on the people that don't go seek help, and they kind of live in denial about it. But nevertheless, we're all still people that are flawed. And I was able to see that about him and recognize, okay, it doesn't necessarily change anything. Nothing physically has changed in the relationship, but it's helped me understand him. And then now I'm not so angry. Because I'm not so angry at him, I can give myself a break too. And
right.
It just makes it's all connected, right?
I mean, it sounds like you have more compassion for him now because you kind of know and can understand what he's been through. And also that anger, it never lived inside him. It lives inside you and your body. So that anger doesn't affect him unless you're, you know, in his face yelling at him.
Right.
So it's really about you and freeing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's the forgiveness, having that release of the feeling that I have a right to be angry. I have a right to be offended. Holding on to that is detrimental and has been detrimental.
Absolutely.
Was detrimental. You know, I don't really hold on to that anymore. I mean, I'm still not happy about how things are, but now I'm just in my moment now. I'm not necessarily like holding on to past angers and past pains like I used to. Like I used to hold on to that as the excuse for why things weren't going the way they should be in my life. And it's like his fault. And it's like, I'm responsible for my own moment that I'm in right now. And regardless of the pain and whatever experience I feel, you know, justifies my having a bad day, it doesn't. And the people around me don't deserve that either. So I have a responsibility now that I'm an adult and I'm a father. I have an obligation to make sure that whatever pains I've experienced don't get passed on to my kid. And that is way harder done than it is to say it out loud, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a journey for sure.
I mean, emotions can really, like when they just get stuck and fester, they can really screw us up and our bodies and our lives. But I think you said something that was really important. It's the shift in perspective of looking for other people that you can blame for what's going on in your life. And then shifting from that to taking responsibility for your life and realizing, yeah, I've been through some crappy things, but that doesn't mean that I have to react this way, because if I continue to react this way, I'm going to continue to get what I'm getting in my life right now that sucks. Yeah. So taking responsibility and like, I may not have caused this situation, but how can I take responsibility and do something with it? What can I learn from it? Where can I go with it? You know,
what are the differences that you've seen between the effects on yourself of mushrooms versus Psych-K?
Psych-K, I feel like in some ways can get a lot more specific. I feel like mushrooms, in my mind, the mushroom has a spirit, and the spirit, whenever I'm in my journeys, typically will sort of guide me. I'll set an intention for what I hope to experience, but I sort of say, or whatever else you think is more important. And I let the experience unfold how it will and let myself be guided. With Psych-K, you're more consciously guiding the process. And the superconscious can kind of step in and change that. But for the most part, you come into a session knowing there's this one aspect of my life that I'm really struggling in, and I have these unsupportive beliefs right now. I really just want to like reprogram those. And, you know, if I can do that, then this part of my life will be better and I'll be happier.
Yeah.
One thing I worked on a lot was public speaking, which has always been a big fear of mine. And I have always been nervous to do that kind of thing. And I was so frustrated when like one Psych-K balance didn't work for that. And so I had to keep balancing. Balancing is the process. That's what it's called in Psych-K speak. So I kept balancing for different aspects of this, and what benefits am I getting from being afraid of public speaking, and just attacking it from different angles.
Yeah.
So that is kind of the Psych-K approach. Although there are other ways also to approach it with that modality. But I feel like with psychedelics, you could maybe intend to explore your fear about public speaking in a journey. And I mean, what you see might be entirely mind-blowing and something you never would have come up with on your own.
Yeah, I remember when you first got into Psych-K, you went as, I guess, a guest or a client? Like you started out.
I tried it out as a client first before I went through the workshops.
So I remember you did that, and I remember what like a fast reaction there was. Like there was
really?
I saw like a big shift in you.
That's interesting.
When you started that, and then it's almost like you fell in love with it so much. You were like, I want this in my life, but I also want I love it so much because this is what I'm seeing, right? I saw that you loved it so much that you wanted to share that with others as well, and not only see a benefit for yourself, but also like pass that on. And I thought that was very like a generous mindset to have, that you weren't just like selfishly absorbing all the good stuff for yourself, but you wanted to like be a part of like sharing that goodness for the world, I guess.
Well, that kind of goes back to the point about sharing things. You know, what good is it if I just have all this information and I'm out here on an island or in a cave somewhere?
Yeah.
Like, it's more fun to share it with other people. And I want other people to be happy and live the lives that they want to live. And Psych-K is a really great way to help do that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that the change was really fast from your perspective, because from mine, it felt so slow.
Really?
Yeah. And I would work with clients and I would see their transformation. Like from one day to the next, things would be different. And I never felt like that happened for me. But maybe it's just because I am me and I'm seeing it from, inside my own head.
Yeah, it's tough, man. When you're in the middle of change, it feels like it's dragging ass, like it's not going anywhere. And then but then you look back and you're like, oh, that all happened in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And from other people's perspective, they're perceiving the time, the passage of time differently than you are. Yeah, it's interesting that you felt like it was slow, because I felt like in certainly less than a year, there was a drastic change in your comfort level with talking to people, with working with clients, because I know you were already teaching yoga before that, but and you were doing nutrition coaching and things like that. So you already had the experience of working with clients and being in front of people talking, but it just, the comfort level, the confidence level changed.
Right. And Psych-K is, again, more on the fringe side of things. The whole modality was essentially downloaded by a guy, and he just wrote down the information he received in his head. And that's where this whole thing came from. Yeah. So that definitely was a big step for me into this more spiritual space.
For sure.
So it was a really big part of my progression. I'm so glad I have it. I still use it all the time.
So the guy that started Psych-K, do you know his name?
Rob Williams.
Rob. It'll come out eventually.
Yes.
Rob Williams. You said it was a download. Was he like psychedelics involved? Or
not as far as I know.
Okay.
I don't think he's into that kind of thing, but I think that he was a psychotherapist, and he got frustrated talking with clients and them not making progress. Like they could do talk therapy for a really long time and just, taking only little teeny tiny baby steps. Yeah. And so I think he started to realize that he was only working with the conscious mind, and he needed a tool to start working with the subconscious. And so that was sort of, he was looking for that answer, and then somehow Psych-K just dropped in as the answer.
Wow. It's amazing stuff like that comes out. How people are able to understand, like, there's an untapped place in your mind that's not being exercised. And so if you just operate within a certain space within your mind and never explore the other avenues, then I think it makes for like less of a complete experience in life.
I think it makes for more struggle, really, because the part of our mind that we tend to live from is the more like fear-based survival. Let me control this, keep myself safe, just control and dominate my life, and I don't think that leads to a great life experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it makes for a flat one, I would say, right?
And always looking for the safest thing, the safest route, which everything in life requires some kind of risk. Yeah. Even staying in your office job is a risk.
Well, not to the person that's doing it. I think to the person that's staying in their office job, they feel comfortable and safe.
Obviously, well, for them, it's a calculated risk that they're willing to accept.
Yeah, but the staying in the office job that you feel like is secure, like the company's not going to fire you, they're not going to lay you off because you're a critical asset to the company or to that division or whatever, right? You feel pretty safe. the only alternative would be to quit the job and go do something else, go get another job or start a company. Those are all much more extreme risks. To the person that's been doing the same job for 15, 20 years, working in the same office, that doesn't feel like a risk at all. It just feels like, the most stable, comfortable thing there is. Like some people they'll live and die in the same house, they were born. There's nothing wrong with any of these things, but to that person, that's the safest possible thing there is to not change, at least not change your geography or change your profession.
That's the most comfortable thing. I would argue that it's not the safest. It's the most comfortable.
How do you differentiate between the two?
Safety, I think you can look at it. Safety doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. I feel safe doing things that some people wouldn't. You feel safe doing things that I certainly wouldn't feel safe doing. So it's not one objective thing. And so say you're safe in your corporate job, that means you're outsourcing your own safety. So like this corporate job is what keeps me safe. I don't keep me safe. It's this thing outside of me.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can create your own internal safety and then do whatever you want, and things might feel scary, but you know that you're safe doing it.
That's really cool. That frames it really well for me. It helps me understand it. Like, depending on the external thing to keep you safe means that you have a lack of strength internally to keep yourself safe, regardless of your external circumstances.
Right.
That's why some people will fall apart going through a traumatic experience, and other people will go through it and not even view it as trauma. They'll just view it as an experience.
Right. I mean, a lot of that, like especially with trauma, has to do with the state of your nervous system to begin with. But yeah.
Well, I'm talking about, and I have a specific thing in mind. Like I'm thinking about combat, and I'm thinking about how I've seen people literally fall apart. And I've never seen meltdowns like I have in those than when I'm in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And you see people, the untrained mind can't handle it. And
I can see that.
It's incredible to watch. It's kind of a spectacle. It's like, holy fuck, this guy's melting down. I've never seen a person like internally just melt down. It's crazy. Just
knowing your attitude about combat and everything, you're so, from my perspective, you're so sure of yourself. You know your stuff. Like this, you are very confident in some of these skills. You know you can handle it. Even if something happens, you know that you have the ability to get through it and know what to do with that experience afterward. But if a person doesn't have that, if they don't know that about themselves, if they can't trust that they're capable of handling whatever happens, then they don't feel safe. I appreciate that vote of confidence. That's how you appear to me whenever you've talked about it. It's not always so easy. I'm sure it's not. Yeah, there's definitely some memories for sure, like people that you lost. You look over, because some decisions are life and death, and you look over some decisions you made in the moment, and I probably shouldn't have done that. That's embarrassing. I should have known better. Nothing that ever, luckily I've never been in the position that I was responsible for anyone's death. So that's for me a satisfying feeling. Everyone always came home. Yeah, it's definitely, the stakes are a lot higher in the scenario you're talking about though. Yeah, but for sure it's not as always confident as you think it is, because it's a very environment of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And you got to get comfortable in that unknown for sure. And I don't want to get into that. I don't want to digress from our topic, our conversation, but I'll have some videos coming out here soon where I'm kind of more elaborating on some of that stuff from, like last year and everything. But overall it's just part of that training the mind to be comfortable in these like chaotic situations, to where it's not traumatic and it's more of just like this is what we have to do. And there is definitely some compartmentalizing of it. There's flipping a switch on and off, and that does lead in some cases to people dealing with trauma, people dealing with post-traumatic stress and things like that. But I think like earlier in my life, I've processed that and understood it and identified the markers, so I know how to like treat that. So
with experience has come maturity and stability and more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So that now going into that kind of circumstance, I feel a lot more relaxed.
Right.
And I know what to do. Like, we did, the yoga teacher training, not together, but we both went through that. And I love that about yoga, about how I'm able to kind of bring my mind back to center, internalize things, and kind of just help process and get my mind in the right space so that I don't have a flurry of chaotic thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. And I think that's what you can see when these people are melting down that don't have the mental discipline. You can see in their eyes just like a wildness, like their head can't process the amount of information that's like panic mode. And you can see the red alarms going off in their brain. Like you can literally see it in their eyes. And that's because they're not going away when they have a few minutes. Just go meditate, go breathe, work on breathing, go do like an easy, simple yoga flow.
Yeah.
Vinyasa flow, slow flow, just get your body in the right place, the mind in the right place. And when you do that, then you feel like, okay, I'm good. I'm back to center. And then I'm reset. So whatever happened yesterday, whatever happened in the last few weeks or whatever on my deployment, I'm not going to let that affect me for today and for tomorrow. And yeah, it has to be part of your daily practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in stressful situations like that, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I remember a buddy of mine when I was over there, we were getting ready to do some stuff, and he said, I noticed you do a lot to maintain your peace. That's what he said. And I was like, what an interesting way to say that. Because I never thought about it in those terms, but yeah, I am doing a lot to maintain my peace. And I don't know if he meant that as a compliment or as an observation of like maybe I'm stressed out or something, but I am maintaining my peace. I think for me, that was the point that I came across that I received is that, yeah, like what we're doing is some insane stuff, but I am maintaining my peace because I am doing this practice. I am doing the yoga, I'm doing the breathing, I'm doing the stuff, like whatever it takes for me to come back down to a baseline of peace and safety, I guess.
And then you can do your job better.
And then I can do my job better. Now I'm focused.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Yeah, that fear of the unknown thing, though, that's a hard one, I think. I'm sure for everyone. But yeah, not knowing what's going to happen, but being willing to jump in anyway, that's a difficult thing.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed mushrooms really help with that. And it's not a thing where it's like I've never needed it, but it's always helped. It's always given me what I needed. So that when I'm having these experiences with the mushrooms, I'm able to say, I'm able to come away with that information. I've had that download. And not only, and you mentioned the guy, Ray Williams, right? Rob Williams.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob, I keep messing up your name. But he gets this download, right? So like you and I have done this like on trips where it's like we get a download and you can't just go away and that's it. You got to write that download down. And you have to make notes and you have to process.
You'll lose it quickly if you don't.
Yeah. It goes away really fast, right? Like it's within a couple hours, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a dream at night. When you first wake up and you're still groggy, you remember all the bizarre things that happened while you were sleeping,
right.
But then, they slowly fade away. It's kind of the same concept.
Yeah, you're right. It's like a very vivid dream, but you get a shit ton of information.
So much
information. You're like, if I don't write this down, and we've even done this where we've recorded audio afterwards because it's so much that I can't write fast enough.
Yeah, and you have to keep talking to explore everything that happened.
Yeah, well, that's beneficial, right? It's like we've done this to where like after a trip, it's like we have our own little moment. Like we're coming out of it. There's a little bit of the ability to think straight, I guess you would say. And like we're not under the heavy influence anymore. Now we can think and process information. So now I get out my voice notes and I just start talking into it. It translates it all down the text. And then now, and I think you're journaling or something. I remember you doing something. And then once we're done dumping our download down, then now we share.
Right.
And that's been so instructive and so
How so?
teachable. Well, because again, I'm not just jotting it down and going away. We're immediately processing that information and making sense of it with each other. So there's an immediate value that comes out of that beyond just, because the brain, okay, so let's walk through it. Like you do the trip, you have the perspective change, you have the experience, you have the emotions, you have the cognitive change and stuff. But just like anything, just like going to the gym or something, like if you don't continue to maintain that muscle mass or that strength, it's going to go away. And so you lose it.
Right.
So you come out of the trip, you have all this, you write all that down or you voice it down or whatever, right? Just get that information down as fast as you can so it's retained, so it comes out of your brain. Again, it's a download, but it's data. It's new information. You have to translate that into something that's now physical and tangible. And I think there's a massive value in translating what you gain in that trip into a physical, tangible thing, because now it's real. Now it exists, and it's not just some imaginary shit you had on a magical thing, on a magical journey. It's now a thing that's instructive, that helps gives you perspective about your life, about your parents, your job, your relationships, whatever, right? Your career choices, anything. So you jot it all down, and then now we go into those sharing sessions where we talk about it. And now we process it and kind of make sense of it. It's like I had a really vivid dream, and let me share it with you. And we can talk about, well, do you feel like it's connected to this or that? And we kind of ask questions and probing questions, because you can't judge someone else's trip, but you can kind of help them get context on it.
And you and I see things so differently. It has been really useful to talk about it afterward, because you come up with questions that I would never have even considered.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the same the other way around.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It's been very helpful. Well, that ability to have just, do you hear that? What is that?
I think that was my stomach.
I thought that was my stomach.
I don't know whose it was.
It sounded like a little baby whale under the table. What is? Anyway, I thought that was me. Was that you?
I don't know. I felt a stomach rumble too.
Well, because of the headphones, I was like, I couldn't tell where it was coming from. Anyway, yeah. So those sessions afterwards are really cool. I mean, I have my business now because of one of those trips.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I wouldn't have this business. I mean, we out of one of those really good trips, we did brainstorming for your business. We did brainstorming for mine. I still have that giant butcher paper that has all the blobs and all the drawings and stuff. And I'm like, this is like what I'm building today as a manifestation out of a trip. So it's like, it's not just, for me, I view it as like, society has viewed psychedelics, especially mushrooms, as this thing like a bunch of stoners, people do or whatever just because they want to get high and they want to escape. It's quite the opposite for me.
Or that it's going to fry your brain.
Or that it'll fry your brain. Yeah. That I don't know. I don't have any scientific medical knowledge on that, if it actually does or not. But
it does not.
Well, yeah, okay. But I know for sure that it's given me a more rich perspective on people. It's helped me empathize with other people's situations. And I've used that knowledge that I've gained from certain trips to take into other situations where I know what it feels like to empathize with a person. So now I'm in this new scenario where I know what it means to empathize, and now I can do that. So I've actually learned life skills through mushroom trips.
Oh, yeah.
I've gained a business model. I've gained like a cool perspective on life, and it's helped me cope with like intensely stressful situations, even after the fact. So it's been like a great journey.
Yeah. I mean, it has been for me too. And it's so funny because growing up, I was always such a, just always doing the right thing and being such a goody. So it's funny now that I like definitely a psychedelic advocate and think it needs to be legalized in more places. But it really has been pretty life-changing in terms of my business. After the one trip that we had where we kind of like started brainstorming all that stuff, I had another one that I did with someone else where I was able to actually step into the identity of the owner of the business that I wanted.
Oh.
And that was something that I was having a really hard time doing because I had so much doubt in myself, and I could only see myself a certain way. And so in this trip, I was able to just become this different person that was so much more free and authentic and transparent with who she is and just loving life.
Yeah.
And I remember the house that we were at had a really lovely pool and backyard with a little garden. And while we were in our journeys, it had rained a little bit, so the grass was damp. And I went out there barefoot and just, danced in the grass and touched all the flowers and walked around the pool. And it was so cool. And there was I think it was a duck, some kind of bird came and floated in the pool with me. It was a magical moment.
Yeah.
And it really, it stuck with me. And now when I start to doubt myself and what I'm doing, I think back to that and I put myself in that identity again. I step back into those clothes.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, I think that's the magic. We were talking about magic earlier.
Mm-hmm.
For me, there are things I need to stay magical in my life. I don't want to understand the science because I'm such an engineering minded person.
Yeah.
I want to break it down ones and zeros. I want to understand it. I want the science. And you mentioned that skeptic, and I go in with a doubting mind. That is a scientific mind. It's not necessarily doubting because I'm disbelieving, but I need physical proof of a thing for me to formulate okay, this thing is or is not. And so I'm not going to go in believing a thing because that will taint my viewpoint on it, right? But with mushrooms, it's been a magical experience, and I want to keep it that way. I don't want to break down on it. I don't necessarily want to read all the science on it, although I think it's important to understand your dosing, microdosing.
Absolutely.
What do you take in your macro doses? What's the safe way to approach it? You have to. We've made sure that every time we do a trip together, it's a safe environment.
Yeah, and by the way, we're not advocating for anyone else to do this.
Well, I am. I think, but
I mean, if you choose to and you feel safe
Yeah.
and have your own precautions set up, that's on you, though.
Well, we've approached it from almost a shamanic experience where we want to create that safe environment. The phones are off. There's no distractions. We're not at a party. We're not out in public. We're not operating heavy equipment or anything. It's not. There's none of that.
We're just one place. We're gonna stay there the whole time.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and the atmosphere is a clean. I call it a clean environment. We're not gonna be playing rock and roll or whatever, rap or something like that. There's a time and place for those things, but I think when you're in that environment, it's you need the right setting. If we're going to watch, Planet Earth, that was really cool. Just watching and doing things that create an atmosphere of the best possible perspective change, the best possible reception and download.
Right.
But it all leads to magic for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have dug a lot into the science behind it because I needed that personally to feel safe doing it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to fry my brain. I didn't want
Right.
to mess my body up in any way. So I had to really dig in. And now I wouldn't say I'm entirely comfortable every time I step into a journey because I'm always a little bit apprehensive, but I know that I'm going to be safe.
Yeah, well, I think the difference is that because we have done enough research to know the amounts that we take are the safe amounts. We're not going to have some kind of crazy episode or some kind of thing where we're sick and we have to go to the hospital. We know that, and that's as far as I like the science to go.
Mm-hmm.
If someone comes up and tells me, hey, there's a dosing thing that amplifies the experience or makes it a smoother ride, or this strain of mushrooms is better than this one, I'm cool with that. I just don't want to hear about the chemicals and all that stuff because it starts breaking down the magic for me.
Okay.
And I want to retain that level of excitement that this is a magical experience. There's so many ones and zeros in our life, but over here there's this magical swirl of color and light that it's hard to experience otherwise, and it's this magical thing that helps me see the world in a way that I am more loving, more caring, more patient,
Right.
More receptive of different viewpoints, and for me that's the magic. But the other part that you mentioned a minute ago is the feeling of safety in the trip, of understanding that it can be pretty intense sometimes.
Very.
And for me, I've accepted, this is what I've come to terms with and how I view it, is that there's not a bad trip. There's no thing where like I'm pulled down into hell and a demon stabbing me, or, you know, and
I mean, that's possible that would happen for someone.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, I've had some really intense things that people could describe as a bad trip. Like they say, never look in the mirror.
Yeah, that is a weird thing to do.
I had this one where I looked in the mirror I was talking to myself for 2 hours in the mirror, and it was, if that was on video, that'd be like the most insane person. It would have been looking like I was in an insane asylum, because I'm having this deep, really intense conversation with myself for 2 hours, and it was very, very hard because I'm confronting myself about my own bullshit, and nobody likes that.
You were different after that trip, though.
Yeah, that changed my life for sure. And I can't, I don't mean that in a light way. Like, that definitely changed my life.
Yeah.
But that one would definitely be described by some as like, that could be a bad trip. But for me, that was just a very intense trip where I'm confronted with things that make me uncomfortable. And I had to confront some really bad stuff in my life that I didn't like. And it, it helped. Yeah.
I mean, I've had what would be considered a bad trip too. And I see it as a really challenging experience. And thankfully I had some people that I talked to afterward and processed it with, and they were able to give me different perspectives so that I could integrate that experience in a helpful way instead of just a really like frightening way, because it was so intense that it made me not want to work with mushrooms for a long time. Because it was just, I laugh now because I see in hindsight that I kind of asked for it. Because in the previous journey that I had done, I had gotten to understand the concept of safety really well. I got a great download about that and what that means and how I can create it internally. And so I wanted to understand the same kind of thing about fear. And so in my intention setting, I wrote down, I'd love to understand about the concept of fear. But instead of giving me a download like I got for safety, I experienced fear.
Wow.
For 3 hours straight.
Wow.
And some of it was fear about my body. And I had a lot of physical pain, actually, which I'm not really sure what was the cause of that, if it was psychosomatic or if there was an actual medical issue. It was nothing I had to seek medical attention for. It was just really, really uncomfortable. So because it was such pain, I was afraid I did something to really screw up my body. And then I had to remind myself, no, I did all this research. You know, it's like nobody that I've found in anything that I saw online, did they die from, mushrooms, unless they took or they ate mushrooms that were not what they thought they were.
Sure, yeah. Like poisonous.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was there was the fear because of the physical body pain, but then there was the fear, actually, I don't think I should say that part, but I'm editing myself as we go.
Okay.
But there was just a lot of fear, a lot of things in my life, and what was I doing, and all kinds of things. I feel like the most intense part was the body stuff, though. Yeah.
Do you feel like that experience where you set the intention, you wanted to understand fear? Well, then the way I view it is like the mushrooms know, because they have a somewhat of an arguably based, especially science too. They've looked at it like there is some kind of consciousness or some kind
There's an intelligence there.
There's an intelligence there. Yeah, we'll say that. And so the mushrooms know what you want. They know your intention. So they're like, okay, we'll help you experience fear.
Right.
So that's what you experience for 3 hours.
And the part of me integrating it afterwards was realizing that I felt fear the entire time. And I was still okay.
Yeah.
I felt fear, but things were fine objectively. Like I was in a safe room. There was nothing harmful there. It was just me creating fear in my own mind.
Yeah. And that's what I was curious about, is the final outcome. Like coming out of that trip, did you recognize that now fear isn't as bad as you thought it was?
It's interesting because I wouldn't say it's not as bad as I thought it was, but I have a different way of coping with it now.
How so?
So during that whole process, there was nothing I could do that would make my body comfortable. You know, I covered myself in blankets, I was stretching, I was rolling out, I was doing yoga poses, everything. I was like dancing and exercising, anything that I could think of to get rid of this pain, and nothing helped.
Yeah.
And it was funny too, because I had recently been hearing a lot in like the world of coaching about the brain being such an asshole. And so as I'm going through this in my trip, I just like my brain kept giving me, oh, you could try this. You have this tool, you know, this concept, like try this, try that. And so I was like, my brain is amazing. It's not an asshole. It's giving me all these tools to, you know, help myself get through this thing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, nothing really helped. It just made me realize sometimes all I need to do is sit with the fear and just be with it. And that's all I can do. Like, it's not something that needs to just entirely go away, or, you know, there's no reason to fight with it. Just be with it.
So you felt like you learned something like valuable out of there?
Yeah. It's still a challenging experience in my mind. And it's not, I mean, of course, I love the lovely, wonderful, fantastical other journeys that I've had. But I know this one was really valuable for me too. And it gives me, I think it gives me a lot better perspective on how to help people who are really struggling.
Yeah.
Because you really have to be able to look somebody in the eye while they're having a breakdown, because that helps them feel safe and it helps them feel normal and like nothing is actually wrong with them.
Yeah, that's
and that
really good.
They can get through it.
Yeah. Well, because you know what it feels like to get through it.
Right. And it sucks while you're going through it. There's no getting around that, you know. That's the part that is hard.
Wow. Yeah, I like and I don't like what you said because I was thinking, oh, at the end, you'll have learned some special way the mushrooms showed you a perspective to get through the fear without feeling the fear as intense or something. And you countered that. You said, no, it was that I'm going to get through it, but I'm still going through it. I'm still feeling all of the emotion. I'm still feeling all the
right.
The experience of what's happening. And that's nice to know, though, that, and it's not nice to know.
I know.
I'm torn on this processing.
I feel the same way
because we have a mutual friend that's going through the separation and the kids, visitation, custody, and the court stuff and everything. If you remember, we were talking last night.
Yeah.
And she hit me up and asked me about it, and asked me about like the divorce process and what is it when you do the mediation and all that. So kind of just asking for a little advice, a little guidance, like what to expect. And I did say, like, it's going to get easier. You two parents don't get along right now, and you're at the height of the conflict. That's the whole reason why you're separated, right? You're not going to be together anymore because it's the height of we can't take it anymore. We're done. And, but it will get easier. Time will go on. Everyone will settle back down. And, she couldn't see that.
Yeah.
She couldn't believe it, and it's like, I'm recognizing that and I told her, like, there's no magic bullet. I can't give you a magic bullet for this. Like, you're going to go through this. I forget how I worded it, but I basically told her, like, you're going to go through this and this is going to happen. Like, there's no way to make it easier.
I wish I could give somebody a magic pill.
God,
I really, really wish I could.
Well, in a way, I feel like the mushrooms are. Like, it'll help you process a really traumatic, a separation from a life partner, and the kids are going through a thing that is a trauma.
Yeah.
Whether no matter which way you cut it, no matter how long how well the parents get along and all this stuff, it's a traumatic thing to tear apart a family, to tear apart a little tribe. So it's difficult, but there are things that can help. But there is no magic bullet. Even the mushrooms aren't the magic. It's in the way that it's going to fix it. It's just going to help you view it in a different way that helps you accept it.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm hearing from you is, like, the fear was accepted, but it still didn't make the fear go away.
Yeah. I mean, fear is a normal human emotion, just like all of them are normal human emotions, and there's nothing wrong with them unless you get stuck in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily wrong. It's just not really a wanted situation to be in, you know. But it's hard when you're going through that kind of stuff. It seems like it's never going to end, and it seems like it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
But it does end eventually.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part. Depends on what the thing is, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think it's just finding acceptance for that thing, regardless of how long it takes,
Yep.
how long it's going to last, just accepting and processing. And I've seen some pretty cool things happen in very stressful moments, situations where by me accepting the thing, there's a counter reaction. The thing that's causing me the stress and everything, so not only is my perspective changing to where I am going through it, but it's reducing in terms of like its effect on me because I'm accepting it. But the thing that's causing me the pain actually reduces in intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not me. I know for sure, I've observed this a number of times, where the thing that's causing it recognizes in me my energy has calmed.
Right.
And so it calms,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy.
Well, there is a little bit of science to that if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, what is that?
Because if you have some kind of charge inside your nervous system, like anger towards someone about something, then every time you interact with that person, their nervous system is interacting with your nervous system and feeling that charge. And so then they react to it. But if that charge is not there within you, then they don't have anything to react to.
Is that similar to what you're saying, like the plant earlier? You could hear it screaming, like you're receiving some kind of information. Are we doing that with each other? Like we're transmitting?
I hadn't thought about it in that way,
silent.
But it's probably similar. We do transmit a lot of energetic information to each other that we don't consciously know about.
Like in what way?
Well, in the tone of our voice, in our body language, just in our nervous systems, really. And we have some control over some of that, and not always, though.
Like what? So our nervous system, the way I view it, is it's a closed system. It's inside my body, and it doesn't necessarily transmit information. So in what way would I like receive your nervous system information?
Stress within your own internal nervous system affects your energetic body, which does extend outside of your physical body. And those for sure do interact with people. I think I've read some stuff about how the nervous system itself does interact with other people that you're around. But in terms of the stuff I know about is this energy body, it can shrink in size if you have a lot of stress built up in your body, because it's drawing that energy out here inward to you, into your body where you need it. Whereas if you get rid of that anger, if you accept the situation, then that energetic body again can grow, and that more positive energy can be transmitted easily to someone else.
Yeah. Is this similar to you seeing the color of someone's aura? Like I've heard of this. You can see
some people
color.
Can see that. And
is
that
the
is
same
the
thing
aura
that we're talking
is
about?
the energy body. Yeah.
Okay. So the energy body you're describing is a thing where it gives off a color?
Yeah. There are a lot of different maps of energy, and I feel like it's all the same thing, but it's like looking at a subway map of New York versus a street map of New York. It's telling you to get there in a different way, but it's talking about the same territory.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah, the way that I've learned about the energy body isn't specific to colors or whatever, but I think that's part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had, that ashram that I visited a number of times. I forget the name of it. Can you look up, it's a Siddhyaton, Siddhyaaa. Yeah, there it is. The Siddhyaton spiritual. Hit their website up. This is an awesome place. They do these retreats and stuff, and a Shriya tree. Go up to the top. Let's find the master's name. I forget, is a Shriya tree. I'm terrible at remembering names. There, Acharya Shri Yogesh. This dude's awesome. He's exactly like what you would want a spiritual master to be.
He looks very wise.
Dude, he's the dude. This guy's the goat, man. He's I've had and the little white fluffy dog. I forget the dog's name. Such a cool little dog.
Nice.
You go in for meditation for chanting every day, and every time you walk in, they say Jai Sadatma, and it means like glorious or liberated souls. Something like that, I think. I'm messing it up. Sorry, everybody. I forgot the free or victorious. Anyway, but you walk in, and the dog always walks up from its little pillow. It walks up and says hi to you. You pet it, hi, dog, and then it goes back and sits down. Someone else walks in. It walks up. It greets every person that walks in.
Wow.
It's been doing that they said for over 10 years or something. It's like the dog's trained
a cool
to go.
Little dog.
Yeah, it's very cool. So it's like a cool thing. It's like a little vibe check. You walk in, you could be feeling anything, but the dog's like, hey, how's it going? Welcome to chanting.
Yeah.
It's like the host of the chanting. Anyway, I've done a private session with him, and I think it was the private session where he was coaching me on a bunch of stuff, but then he said, I'm going to look at your aura now. And I was like, whoa, okay, here we go. This is it. Like, what do we do? And he's like, just sit there. I was like, okay. And I was like freaking out of my head because I'm like, okay, let me think good thoughts, come on, good colors, whatever. I don't want to be black or whatever the, bad colors are in the thing. And so I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this guy can see into my aura. Like, I don't know, just the first time, because he's done it twice to me. And so the first time it freaked me out because I was like, I know about it, but it was just like, I've never had anyone like, okay, I'm going to look into your aura now. And you're like, oh shit, this is real. And so the second time it was cool, but he can see like the color of your aura.
Cool.
And then he says like, okay, this is what's up. And he gives you a whole breakdown of stuff. It's always highly accurate. But this place is really cool. They do a bunch of retreats. So you can go for like a nutrition retreat, and they'll teach you how to cook all these healthy foods. They have a yoga retreat, an anger one. They have a trauma one, just a bunch of different stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah, there is a thing called the toroidal field that is an electromagnetic field around the human body that is produced really strongly whenever your heart and your brain are in coherence. So it produces this massive electromagnetic field around you. And I wonder if that is the aura.
A toroidal field?
Mm-hmm.
Can we pull up see if there's a picture of that toroidal field? I'm just curious to see if that's a visual. So this is the heart and the mind merging.
Like
go to Google
in sync
Images.
In sync with one another.
Oh, this is like a magnet.
There's one, like it comes out the top of your head and circles out around you down to your feet and then comes back in.
Go to that, just to the far right down. Yeah, see the dude in the weird spaceship? Yeah, zoom in on that one. Oh, we're getting Pinterested.
Oh,
just
no.
zoom in on the thing there. It won't let you. There we go. Somewhat of a zoom. So it's an electromagnetic field.
Right.
So the brain is at the top of the field and the...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, did we lose it?
The brain is the electric part and the heart is the magnetic part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool photo.
Yeah.
Or graphic.
It almost seems like you could put some chakras in that dude too.
Oh yeah, because it comes through the central channel in the body, which is where the chakras align.
Yeah, it's like the main power conduit or something, or electrical conduit.
Yeah,
Right.
So the toroidal field gets stronger and larger, like the more aligned you are and the more like living in truth you are doing.
And what do you mean by that?
Just not having a lot of internal conflicts, like not thinking or judging a certain thing and then going out and doing that thing. Yeah, just being who you say you are, no matter who is around.
Wow.
Even if it's just yourself.
And you think that strengthens your field?
Yeah, because you're not, so many of us have judgments about what's right and wrong and good and bad. And even though we feel a certain way inside, we go out into the world and we act a different way because that's more acceptable in society. But that's not our truth. That's not how we stay aligned. And so it just like muddies things up.
Yeah, I hear little tidbits here and there. Be true to yourself, have integrity. It's good vibes, good karma. There's a lot of talk like that. You hear little phrases, little sayings and stuff, and it seems like it all comes back to you being whole and complete.
Right, yeah.
Like not being these things that we identify as good or positive detracts from your aura, your energy, your toroidal field. So it's like what you said earlier, like people are saying a lot of the same things just in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, like most of those maps will kind of get you in the area.
Right.
In the right neighborhood of where you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Some maps are more accurate than others.
Sure.
I would say.
I mean, and some maps make more sense to certain people than others, so they're just different ways of looking at the same thing.
Yeah. For your for what you're doing now with clients, like what do you find as being like a more recent thing that you've started employing, like modality that you maybe haven't done before?
I'm getting a lot of messages now about simplicity. Like personally, whenever I journal or do automatic writing or whatever, I'm being guided to keep it simple. So a lot of what I'm starting to focus on is more about staying grounded and finding the safety within yourself. And I mean, getting grounded is a great place to start with that, because if you're too stressed out and you're like floaty or just all up in your head, you're not like firmly grounded and rooted to the earth, then it's really difficult to feel safe.
Yeah.
So that, and
like the clients are asking for simplicity?
No, it's just like what I'm being guided to start offering.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
guess. Because I think we have a tendency to make things overly complex, because complexity we think is somehow better. But yeah, simple things can be really, really powerful, and mushroom journeys will show you that, because you'll get like the simplest sentence just dropped into your head, and it is so, you just see it in a whole different way.
Yeah.
So simplicity is a big thing, and things like morning pages have been super powerful for me, and that's a simple thing to do. It's getting up in the morning and then hand writing 3 pages, stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
So, and I know your mom has done this for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of artists and writers do this. And I just started doing it close to a month ago now. And even in a month, I have seen big changes in myself.
Really?
Yeah.
What does it do?
It just gets me a lot more clear and focused. And, I mean, a lot of times when you're writing things out, it's just like junky thoughts that you have running around in your head. But if you didn't get them down onto that physical paper, they would still be stuck in your head on a thought loop throughout your whole day, influencing what you do all day.
Okay. So it's not like you have to journal happy, cheerful things. Just you can drop all your bullshit on the page if you want.
It's just whatever comes to mind. Like sometimes I'll start out like, oh man, I'm so tired, or just things like that. I'll write about dreams that I remember, or anything that is bothering me in life. Just whatever pops into my mind, I write down on paper.
So there's not like a rule about the format of like what you're supposed to write. It's just a data dump of brain.
Yeah, it's really just a brain dump so you can get the clutter out of your head.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize how much clutter there was in my head, because now I feel like I get more done in a day. And that was not even the intention of doing it, but it's because I'm not distracted by all these other things, because I got them out on paper first thing.
Yeah, I feel what it is to have a free mind, a clear mind, because I've been in that mode where I have a yoga practice several times a week. I have a very strict discipline on diet, on exercise, and then I've had moments where I'm completely sedentary, not doing anything except staring into a TV screen for entertainment and then staring into a monitor for work. And I know what existence is on both ends of those things. And so when I'm not feeling free, I know that I'm not, because I've been free before. I've been felt clear-headed. And so when I'm not, I'm like, I know that I'm not. I know this feels that I'm kind of numb. I'm kind of dull.
Right. But until you try something like meditation or yoga or morning pages or whatever else you want to try, you don't know.
What would you say to someone that is going through that? Like they're having a hard time. They don't know where to start, but they are kind of feeling depressed or numb or just a lack of emotion about life. Like where could they start?
I mean, they could start with morning pages. You know, a long time ago, whenever I started, I had gained a lot of weight. I was really depressed. I was just going through a really, really difficult time. And the only thing that I could do mentally and emotionally, the thing I was ready to do was just go for a walk outside every day. And that was the first thing I did. I mean, that's a great first step, really. Now I know all this stuff about how healing nature is and whatever. At the time, I didn't know that. It just seemed like a decent thing to do. And I got some exercise and fresh air and whatever.
Yeah.
So just anything that feels doable, even if it feels like way too easy, because then you'll do it. You don't have an excuse not to do it.
Right.
If it's meditation, you can start with 2 minutes a day. Just set a timer for literally 2 minutes, and then you can't not do it. It makes it more approachable. And then over time, as you get used to it, you can start adding time to it. Like I recently restarted my meditation practice after taking a long break. And at first, 15 minutes even felt like a long time. But I moved up to 20, and now it seems like it's over in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, well, you get comfortable with it, right? It's like a muscle, kind of a mental discipline.
Right. So it doesn't really matter where a person starts. I think they should start with what they're curious about, what draws their attention, because that's their path.
Yeah.
Whatever is drawing their attention is doing that for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is there, so if somebody started like that, they started going for a walk, doing some morning pages, couple minute meditation, what would be like the next thing to kind of transition, and not necessarily transition to, but some like they're finding value in those things, and then they say, okay, what's like the next thing I can kind of delve into to kind of help improve myself?
I mean, I'm partial to coaching for one, because I am one, and I've had amazing experiences with other coaches, being a client with them. But I think it's really useful to have somebody helping you, to guide you along the way and support you, because whenever you're really struggling, you feel very lonely. You feel like you're the only one going through it. Nobody else understands. But if you find somebody that you feel like you can trust and you feel safe with, then they can show you that you are normal. You're just going through a hard time right now, and you can get through it. And here are some things you can consider trying to help you get through it faster.
Yeah.
Because every time I've had a coach, I've moved so much faster through whatever it was that I was trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also it's like I know personally I need the help with the discipline. It's like I want to do it, but I need that motivation. I need that little kick in the ass to say like, hey, let's meet up, and I'm going to ask you questions like, did you do your morning pages or whatever your stuff is? And I know for you, like you're bringing modalities to the table too. So you're bringing the Psych-K and some of the yoga mindset and the background in nutrition. So you're kind of looking at the holistic view,
right?
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of those things, they do feel like shortcuts. And I'm not saying any of them is a magic pill, but it feels like a shortcut. It feels like you got a cheat code to some cool video game,
What's the shortcut?
It's just, it gets you farther faster.
No, I mean, well, no, I didn't ask. Okay. I don't mean the definition of the word shortcut, but I mean like what is a shortcut that you're talking about? Because you said there's some shortcuts, but like what were you?
Oh, it's just, it's not any one specific thing. It depends on the person. Like for me, a big leap that I had to make was quitting my corporate job so that I could, have the business and the life that I really want. And I struggled with that for years. Like I sat in that corporate job knowing I didn't want to be there for years.
Yeah.
And, my physical body got really sick because I had a lot of inner turmoil. And then with Psych-K, it was less than 6 months. And I wasn't specifically always working on that one thing. But when I finally did, within that same month, I turned in my notice.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember you were going through this period where it's like, something's got to give. You can't take it anymore. You can't keep doing this thing that's obviously making you unhappy and even physically ill at times. And then, just seeing that transition, it's like, yeah, it was scary, but you seemed to be like way happier.
Yeah.
Even though the outward external safety that we talked about earlier, the safety of having that corporate job, of having the benefits and the whatever else, right, is not there anymore. But the feeling of certainty of knowing that you're doing something that you're going to be happy with is, it was a big difference in the way I saw you as a person, like, experience life.
Well, and I'm in charge of my own safety now. I'm not making someone else or some company be my safety net, which, weird things happen. Companies go under, you could get laid off even if you think you work at the most stable company ever. There's not 100% guarantee that that's always going to be there for you. Right.
Yeah. In a way, I'm viewing, if we shift away from like kind of the spiritual viewpoint of it, but like in a way you're describing the entrepreneurial mindset.
Sure.
Where like, I'm not going to let someone be in charge of my destiny, my fate, my ability to succeed. I'm going to take control of it myself. And in a way, I feel like that's the ultimate expression of a person that has to learn to be confident with themselves, has to learn to be comfortable with themselves, because I'm responsible for this whole thing now. I'm in charge. I'm running the show, and I've got to have my shit together.
Yeah. So in a way, it is really freeing, and in a way, it's terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think it demonstrates to yourself, like, can I do it? Can I do this? And if I don't have my house in order internally, then I probably can't do the act of running a business or going out on my own, because if I relied on the safety of the corporation, then that means that I may not have the tools set to do things myself.
Yeah.
And so stepping away from that corporation, it's like, yeah, it's hard learning all of the business stuff, because there's a learning process there. But like internally, shifting back to the spiritual side, it's like seeing that, like, oh, I can be happy, confident, healthy, and not only endure, but like thrive in this environment where everything's on me.
Well, I think you have to pick your hard. It's really hard to stay in a position in life that you're not happy in, that is causing you mental or physical health issues. That's really hard.
Yeah.
It's also hard to go after what you really want and face all your demons and your fears and move through them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Pick which kind of hard you want to live.
Yeah. I feel like climbing has really helped with that. In like facing fear, facing struggle, overcoming just like a very difficult situation, because like, as you know, like when you're on the wall and you're experiencing this like intense strain on your body, you have to do like a mental yoga, play chess against on the wall.
Right.
Your body, you have to think about the mechanics of all of your body movement. You have to breathe. You have to maintain a baseline level so that you're not stressed out. And I think that's what gave me like a lot of mental strength, is having been climbing for a number of years, so that when I am in like an intense, like if I talk about combat or something, it's like I know what it is to be like in sustained stress and how to calm my body and my mind so that I can continue to climb the wall. Because I've come off the wall at times because the wall psyched me out, not because my body gave out.
Yeah, that's the worst. I hate that.
It sucks, yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely sucks. It's like, oh, I got psyched out about that move. Like, can I pull, not necessarily a dyno, but can I pull the, what is it? Not a dyno. What's the move where you don't leap all body off, but you kind of dead point?
Yeah.
Like, oh, can I dead point up to this crimp? Like, am I going to make that? And it's like, well, just fucking go for it, man. Like, my belay partner's got me on the rope and I'm good. So just go for the move. What's the worst that'll happen? You just go for a ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we take a break real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back. All right, we're back, man. Yeah, we were just laughing about the gurgle the whale, the baby whale that was under the table earlier.
Yeah.
The weird noise.
Yeah.
So we were talking about climbing. I remember when you were new to climbing, and we went to Horseshoe Canyon Ranch, and you took this massive whipper.
Oh my gosh, on manservant.
Yes.
That was the biggest fall I've ever taken.
I've never seen anyone take a whipper that big, like in front of me, you know?
Yeah.
Like face to face. I was like, that was over 20, I think it was like 25 feet or something.
Well, it was because I was pulling the rope up. I was pulling the rope up because I was just about to clip the next quick draw, but I just could not quite reach it. And I was so freaked out anyway, because I had already tried that route several times and fell every time.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the point of real critical mass of when you're going to fall, when you're going to clip that next draw, you pull up that extra slack. Mm-hmm. And if while you got that slack in your hand, you go for a ride, you're going for a big ass ride.
Yeah. And I had actually flipped upside down on that one too.
Yeah.
So that was weird. And I hit my hip really hard into the wall.
Yeah. I don't know how you went upside down.
I don't know either.
I think
my foot must have caught the rope, or I don't know.
Your foot caught something, but you were fine. You were normal. You were just falling feet down first. Mm-hmm. And then something caught your foot and you flipped over. So as you're coming to the wall, I heard the plastic of your helmet smack the wall, and I was like, oh shit.
Yep.
Are you all right? That was like the biggest fall.
I was so fried after that. I was just, my whole body was shaking, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can climb anymore today.
Yeah. I don't remember what you did. I don't know if
I know I didn't do that route again that day.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was a long time ago too.
I know. I still haven't completed that route on lead. I've completed it, top roping.
Top rope, yeah. Yeah, we always have those challenges, those routes that we are like reference points in our mind. Mm-hmm. Like, I got to go back and beat that route, or that's the one that destroyed me.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And I definitely have a lot better technique now, so I'm sure it would feel easier, but it's such a sustained route. Like, I don't know, just that slight overhang the entire way really gets you. It's
a great test piece at that grade to know, can I actually climb this grade? Because it's overhung the entire way, and it's a jug haul, but it's so sustained. Like,
well, and it's it's a 5.9 plus, right?
It's a 9+, yeah.
Which it seems so much harder than that.
To say it out loud, like, it's just a 9+, like, whatever.
Well, when you think about a 5.9, when I think about a 5.9 now, I'm like, oh, that's pretty easy. That's like a fun walk in the park kind of a thing. Yeah. But this 5.9 plus, it's got to be the slight overhang that makes it so
for sure
hard.
Well, if you don't train overhang,
right?
Because I started out with trad, so everything's vert or low angle, and so then when I started getting into like sport climbing and stuff, I realized, like, dude, I'm getting my ass kicked on this sport stuff because a lot of sport is overhung. Mm-hmm. And look, what's the history of that? It's like, why did people bolt things? It's like a lot of times it was because it wasn't practical to put in gear because they didn't have dynamic cams, back in the day. And so it didn't make sense for on overhung stuff to try to do pitons and aids and all that other aid stuff. So you had to do bolts, and that's where sport came from. So then, so I shifted into sport, and I'm like, dude, I'm getting my ass handed to me on stuff that's like 2 grades lower than my max, and I can't even like get up the wall. But
which to me, that's kind of crazy, because to think about trad climbing and how much energy you have to expend to put the piece in the wall, then clip the quick draw to it, then put the rope in the quick draw. Right. Like, that's so many things and so much time.
Right, for one placement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's vertical, Mm-hmm. So while you're doing that, it's like, hopefully you've got the technique down to where your arm isn't getting pumped out and you're resting most of the weight on your legs. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I mean, it still gets pumpy if you sit there too long. I'd rather be moving on a trad route than sitting there trying to fumble over like which nut is going to fit in the hole or which size cam to use or something. Yeah. But that comes with memorizing like the size of a crack. Like, like you can look at the crack and you're like, oh, that's a 1 or that's a 2. So you kind of learn and memorize that.
Yeah.
And get pumped out.
I'm sure. I wouldn't know about all that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to follow a
Yeah.
lead, a trad lead. I'm happy to follow and clean it up.
Yeah. Well, that's mainly why I think all of us stopped doing trad, because it just so much time. Much time
and if you're only going for a weekend,
right,
you want to make the most of that time.
Yeah. And I want to get more routes in. I want to get some, I don't want to just mess around with gear all weekend on this one route. Like, it's just a lot of stuff to like, because that's what I've observed. Like the elite trad climbers, they'll master a route to where they memorize which placement goes where, and then they'll get that all dialed in. But there's a lot of prep to do that. Mm-hmm. And if you, like you said, if you just have a weekend, I don't want to spend all my time mechanically figuring out all the little intricacies of this one route. I don't have that much time. Let's just get on a bunch of routes, and that's the most fun we can have for the weekend. And that's why I think we all shifted to sport climbing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that, figuring out which piece to put in there and all that stuff is the fun part for some people. It's just, I prefer to do something different. Because I like I like the overhanging routes. I like the powerful moves, and the really, like, you have to be strong to climb these kind of routes. I like those versus just a sustained, like, really balancy, vertical kind of climb.
What is it you like? I remember, you like dihedrals or arêtes?
Both.
I
like corners.
Okay.
Let's just call it corners.
Yeah.
An inward corner or an outward corner. Either way, I like it.
Yeah. Those are fun.
Yeah. You get to use your legs a lot more, I think, doing that. So I think that's really fun.
Yeah. Well, you climb really strong with your legs for sure. So I guess it caters to like your skill set or your preferences. Yeah. There's that, the one in the Wichitas, even though it's that 5.6, it's in the Narrows. It's like a 5.6. It's on the same wall as Dr. Coolhead.
Oh, I don't remember the Wichitas as well as you do, so you may have to, you have to help me here.
Oh, okay. Well, it's the dihedral, but
Okay.
even though it's a 5.6, it's just like a fun cruiser, and then you come up to the roof, so then you kind of have to traverse this like 10, 15-foot roof section, and then you come out up to the anchors. But
yeah, that sounds familiar.
That's a fun one. Oh, I think why maybe you don't know it as well. It's a trad route, so you have to.
Oh yeah, I would have had to follow somebody.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What do you remember as your favorite route? Do you have one?
I mean, one of my favorite climbing memories, this one, it was the first day I ever did outdoor climbing, and we were at Reimer's Ranch, and it was the three of us. We only climbed for one day down there, but I had a really fun time the whole day, but I think it was toward the afternoon. I was starting to get tired, and I was getting freaked out on the wall more easily. So I got 3/4 of the way up one route, and I just didn't think I could go on, and I was really freaking out, and I think I yelled take and all of that, and I just I needed a break. And I may have told you, whoever was belaying, I think it was you, I may have told you to just let me down. And you and Dave, you were like, no, you got to finish it, you're almost there. And I'm like, I'm too freaked out, I can't. And then one of you was like, have you seen the fossils in the wall in the rock here? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was really irritated by hearing that. Like, why are you distracting me with this nonsense? But then I looked at the wall, and there was this beautiful imprint of a seashell right in front of me. And it just it was like a switch flipped. All of a sudden I was in awe. Like, oh, wow, look at the seashell. Like, I don't know how many feet up the wall.
Yeah.
And it's right here in front of me. That's so pretty. And all of a sudden, it was like my fear and my freak out just drained away from my body.
Yeah.
It was like I was a whole new person in a second. Yeah. It was so cool. And then I climbed the rest of the route.
I remember
like it was no big deal.
Yeah. And then you finished the route. And it was like, it was an amazing shift to watch in a person. Like immediately the energy just calm.
I think that was memorable for all three of us.
Yeah. It's definitely a reference point for me too in climbing to have watched a climber gone from like panic into like, oh, yeah, cool. But that's what I love about outdoor climbing. So like anyone that's listening that's like thinking about climbing, or you go to the gym and you just grab plastic all day, like you got to get outside. I mean, that is part of the whole spiritual experience of being a climber, of like, I'm connecting to nature. I'm out on the mountain, I'm on the rock, and I'm not, and that's what can happen is you can get so focused and narrow viewed about the route and just how you feel and what's going on with you on the rock. And then you forget that you're in a place that has like geological value. that
Yeah.
has archaeological value. You're in a place that's like ancient.
Right.
And you're on this piece of rock that's millions of years old, and there's history there, and there's experience to be had. There's birds flying, there's squirrels flying around, there's water running somewhere nearby. There's just beauty everywhere around you. Can you pull up something? Reimer's Ranch, in outside of Austin, Texas, and they've got there it is. Just get some images of the climbing. See if you can get like Reimer's Ranch climbing pictures. Yeah, get this one person, right? Either one, the left one, yeah, whatever. See if we can zoom in on that. Yeah, zoom in on that guy or the girl, either one.
Yeah, see, the rock just looks so cool.
Yeah, and so what the cool thing about Reimer's Ranch is it's an ancient riverbank. And so what's that river that goes along by there? It's not Travis Lake. No, that's Lake Travis.
I'm not sure.
Oh, this dude's got all tatted up. He looks cool. It kind of reminds me of Dave.
Yeah.
But it's ancient riverbed. And so you can see, because remember that to get in there at the climbing area, you have to climb down the creek.
Oh, yeah.
And remember how high the rock is on either side of you?
Yeah.
And you're walking down that thing, and then you come out to left or right, and then there's the walls there, but across from the walls is the river. Well, it's all ancient riverbed, and that's why there's a seashell imprint halfway up the wall, like 30, 40 feet up, because there's, it's an ancient riverbed, and there were seashells and all kinds of stuff, so you can see pictures. There's some really cool overhangs here, but yeah, I just love the area because then there's just some really cool history, and you're climbing in an ancient riverbed that the water has receded, and now you're just in this cool spot that you get to climb and grab rock, and it's just like a fun, beautiful experience.
It is a really cool experience.
Yeah. I like Reimer's Ranch. It's a great spot. I'm really bummed that that camping spot shut down.
I know. What, Rock Dog?
Yeah, Rock Dog.
Yeah, that was such a cool place. It makes me sad that people took advantage of it and damaged.
I was so mad.
Didn't somebody damage the owner's house or something?
Yeah, they were vandalizing it.
They're giving climbers a bad name. I hate that.
Well, hopefully that wasn't a climber.
Hope not.
There were other people camping there than just climbers, but it was 5 minutes from Reimer's Ranch. It was like that was the spot to camp. But we knew there were other people camping there that weren't climbers.
Yeah.
I remember running
just a few.
Remember they had that big fire pit, like a communal fire pit, and you'd meet people that were just camping, hanging out. They should have just closed it to only campers or climbers.
To only climbers. Yeah.
That would have been good.
That would have been
But
cool.
I was mad. The wife it was a couple. They owned the property. And then they had their house in the back, and then the whole front end of it was all just campsites. And it was like a nice, cool little spot. And
it was perfect.
It was perfect. It was beautiful. But when the wife of the couple, because I was trying to reach them, I was like, I can't find them anymore online. I was trying to make a reservation for the campsite or something. And I had to do a little bit of detective work, and I finally got their number, and I reached her, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we closed it a few months ago." And I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "Someone went up and vandalized our house and stuff, and so we just didn't feel safe anymore." I was like, "That's so fucking annoying."
That just makes me sad.
Yeah. It's not only is it they're disrespecting the area, but they're literally vandalizing someone's home. They live there.
Yeah.
They gotta live there after you're done being an idiot.
I know. And they're just having some fun, I'm sure, is what they're thinking. They're probably not thinking. There was typically a lot of drinking going on around the campfire.
Probably. So. Yeah, but it just doesn't. Yeah. I've never, that's the thing. And I know there's people with different mindsets and stuff. I've never been that drunk or that high or that anything that I'm messing with other people's stuff. It doesn't even make sense to me.
I've done some stupid things while drunk that I don't even want to admit to, but that was a long time ago, in my early 20s when I still didn't have anything figured out.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing with myself even. So
yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't remember ever met, because usually if I'm under the influence of something, I'm at home or I'm minding my own business, even if I'm out at a bar and I'm starting to get a good buzz going or something, it's like I actually like leave people alone. Like, all right, I'm not gonna bother you because I'm in my own little fun experience here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But for the people who have that, repressed anger or whatever they have inside of them, just lowered inhibitions with alcohol make them feel like it's okay to do that kind of stuff, to act it out, because I know that happened for me when I was drinking. I was a lot more extroverted and like outgoing whenever I would drink, because I always wanted that. So that desire was there, and it, like, my inhibitions were lowered. So that part of me came out. But if the part of you that's repressed is like angry or resentful or something like that, I could see how that could happen.
Well, I've experienced anger before. Well, that's if I'm talking about like a thing that I think has been a reference point that I deal with and I work through. Like, anger is a thing, but I've never had that come out because I was drinking or anything else. It's
maybe it doesn't happen for everyone. I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, I'm not like the master of that, but
me either.
Yeah. Can you see if we can pull up a route that I have yet to do is Mount Whitney. Mount Whitney's California, right? The East Face. Put in like climbing or something like that. Yeah, Mountain Project. That's it. The East Face. This is something I've been wanting to do. So it's only a 5.7. It's 1,000 feet. But I've been looking at pictures of it, and I thought a lot of it is like hiking. See, look at this picture right there.
Yeah.
So it's not all vertical. It's not all technical. Some of it you're just kind of scrambling up, but it's 1,000 feet, and it's a max of 5.7. And sometimes in some cases you're not even having to do any technical. Like, you can come off rope and just go for it like a mountain goat or something.
I would want to be on rope still.
Well, I've had him. Well, no, there's some places where it's a massive ledge. Where it's just like you have to come off rope. There's no route. Like, you're just you're hiking, and so there's no way to be on rope really, not without it becoming more inconvenient.
Cumbersome, yeah.
Yeah, cumbersome. So I've been looking at this for a few years now, and I'm thinking that'd be an awesome route to like get down to where I feel so confident with it I can solo it. Mm-hmm. Because
oh my gosh,
it'd be like an accomplishment to be able to just like I've free soloed some stuff, but to be able to do something that tall would just be like would feel really good.
Here's a place where your risk tolerance is a lot higher than mine. I would never. I don't want to consider free soloing. That's too much risk for me.
Well, we've done things. I mean, arguably, I could say that you have free soloed something before. Like, we've climbed up such steep things to get to places that like that in itself is a solo. Yeah,
I mean there are places. I can't remember where it is in the Wichita's. I think it's maybe Upper Mount Scott, where there's that real sketchy, like there's one big stone that's kind of angled down that you have to walk down to get to the
approach.
Yeah.
Or the descent. It's like you're descending to the routes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That freaks me out every time.
That is kind of freaky. It is a pretty crappy approach. So like it'd be cool if the whatever society was there would put in some kind of stairs or something, because for anyone that's not initiated into something like that and they're just going to go do some like intro to climbing course, because they do a lot of like, I know the Boy Scouts do stuff there and everything. It's like, it is a pretty sketchy approach to get to the routes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember we've done some other stuff like in Arkansas, getting to routes and things, and Salt Lake City we've done things. And so, yeah, I think it's, like you said, tolerance level, comfort level, just getting used to, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and trusting your body and that you're strong enough, that you have good enough technique and all of that.
Yeah.
Which at this point, I haven't climbed in a long time now. I would need to train before I do anything outside, probably. I'd want to train a little bit.
I did this, I had a IT course that I was taking in Pennsylvania a number of years ago. I don't remember, 5-6 years ago. And I go do the IT course, and I had an extra day before I flew back. And so I looked up climbing. I'm like, I'm in Pennsylvania. There's some climbing out here. There's mountains out here, so let me go find something. So I just found the nearest like mountainous area, and I hiked all the way up to this face. And I was on like as far as I could tell, I wasn't in a designated climbing area that had already been like proven or anything. And so I was just climbing up faces and I was soloing, and I don't know what I was on, but I remember I was halfway up this face and I was like, what grade do I think this is? And it's getting harder and harder. And I'm like doing a mental check and I'm like, no one knows I'm out here.
Yeah.
I haven't told a soul that I'm out on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never been on this rock. I don't know if there's loose shit up here. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, I started freaking out a little bit and I was like, yeah, this probably not. I don't need to do this. I don't need this that bad that I need to like push past the point of reason. Like, this doesn't make sense. So,
well, I'm glad to hear that you have that voice that will speak up.
Yeah, definitely. The voice is there. I mean, I want to do extreme stuff, but with like, safely if I can.
That's one thing I appreciated about the that Free Solo movie about Alex Honnold is they actually did show at least one time where he thought he was gonna do the free solo attempt that day, and he just wasn't feeling it, and so he decided not to. And I appreciated them showing that just because he didn't try to, even though he's one of the most elite climbers in the world, he even didn't try to push himself into this thing when he just didn't feel right about it.
Right. Yeah, pull up see if there's any pictures or video of the of just him doing the climbs. Like maybe go video and then like free solo like Honnold backs down or something like that. See if we can find that clip. It may be like a thing like we found the other day. How to get down. Like maybe Alex Honnold backs down or something like that. I don't. Scared.
I think there was a news segment. I don't remember what news show. If it was probably a special interview with him. They had a camera crew following him on a free solo attempt, and he did freak out because he had a camera crew there. And I don't know if it was just because he wasn't used to it or what, but he had a freak out moment on a ledge.
Yeah, do like backs down camera crew or something. He doesn't back. John goes, he's legit. He doesn't back out.
He is a pretty amazing climber.
We can't find it. I mean, we're probably doing the wrong search. See if you can find that. Just wave me down, man. But yeah, there was that was a really cool movie. It was cool to see the realism, because for years we've been watching the clips of him do these free solos, and that's it. It's just in a vacuum. We're watching a guy doing insanely amazing work on a wall. But you don't get to see the behind the scenes of like, what's he thinking about? How did he lead up to that? And so it was great that Jimmy Chen captured that, that part of him that like, yeah, it can be pretty fucking sketchy sometimes, and your head can really get in your own way of doing things.
I mean, your mindset, your head is the most important thing in climbing, really.
Yeah.
Because it'll make or break your climb or your day even.
Yeah, that's true. Because even if I'm coming off the couch, I can get most of the way there from where I've been at my peak, because I remember what my body needs to do to make a certain move,
right,
to pull things off. And my fitness will fail me at some point if I'm coming off the couch. But if I go in at the peak eliteness of my best conditioning in my life and I don't feel confident about it, I'm not getting up the wall, and there's nothing I can do about it until I change my mind, my point of view. And that's why for me the mushrooms are so valuable in changing the perspective.
I was just remembering that time period a couple of years ago where you and I got really consistent about our training after having not been for a year or two.
Yeah.
And we both got so strong during that time period. And I remember feeling so confident and so great. And I would try harder climbs than I'd ever tried before.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I actually found flow on the wall. Have you experienced that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the most beautiful feeling. I love that so much.
Yeah.
And it's just going back to perspective again, really. Usually when I would freak out on the wall, I was looking all the way up and noticing how much farther I have to go. And oh my gosh, can I do it? I don't know. Whereas like when I was in flow, there was a specific route that I remember climbing in this way, and it was just like, oh, my hand goes here, and then that's the next foothold, and here we go. It was just like so smooth and easy and beautiful. And not that I didn't feel like my body was working hard, but I could trust it, and I knew what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always think about the Bruce Lee. He used to say, be like water, my friend.
Oh, yeah, we used to use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think about that on climbing, because if you're trying to fight up the wall, if you're trying to CrossFit your way up the wall, like, it's just, you're not going to do it. You're going to gas out. The wall will crush you. But yeah, finding that flow, it's really magical thing. You find this thing where, like, I am gliding vertically up this wall.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. It's really beautiful. It's a cool feeling to know that you can do that. When we were doing that, because when we were doing that, I was not climbing my most difficult grades, but I was doing that on purpose because I was finding value and pleasure and joy in just developing the technique, developing the ability to flow and just gracefully do the act of climbing. So before, it was like I was nipping at the heels of 512 outside, and it was just like, I always understood be like water and all that, but there was still a lack of maturity in my climbing, that it was like a lot of strength was involved in that. And you need strength for a lot of this stuff, right? Especially if you're going to do 512, you got to be strong. But so, did 11C outside, and that was great. But it was like, I wanted to come back and fine tune, tighten up the skill set, learn how to flow better and everything. So during that time, I think I was working on hard 10s, low 11s, maybe. I don't remember, something like that. And, but I felt like way more calm in doing those.
Yeah.
I'd never, during that time, I learned to not be overcome by the wall and just to work with the wall and flow like water. And it just felt, it felt better.
That brings up two things that I think are so interesting. And one of them is just that in order to get better, we went back to basics, really.
Yeah.
And so
for sure.
Back to simplicity, you know, instead of trying to make things harder for ourselves or more complex or build on what we've already done or know, go back to the things that we learned at the beginning and just practice those and master those. And then you can get better so much faster.
Yeah.
That was incredible how well that worked for us.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I remember that time. It was a good time. Yeah.
But the other thing, something you said about a CrossFit person, like forcing themselves up the wall with strength versus finding the flow.
We've seen that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm trying to notice that in my life. Like, where am I trying to force something or control or just like use pure strength and power to like push through versus where does my soul want me to go? Where is the universe leading me? You know, what's coming my way that I can just take the next handhold and flow with.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I'll have to think about that one. I want to chew on that.
Yeah.
It's like, what else in my life am I trying to beat my arms against instead of...
And I find that I've done it with everything.
Yeah.
With so many things. And one of the biggest struggles I've had for a long time is just with structure in my life, and especially not having an 8-to-5 job anymore where I have to be somewhere at a certain time and I have this structure that I'm walking into, kind of being able to just do whatever I want and flow with my day however I want. I know that structure is useful for me, but I just rebel against it and I don't want it. I don't want to force myself into a box that I don't want to be in.
Right.
But then I realize the more that I've accepted that, okay, structure can be useful, because like if a river doesn't have a riverbed, then it's just a swamp. You know, it's not like being directed somewhere, going in a certain direction. It's just everywhere, scattered.
Well, that's good. That's deep.
But it's, I like to think about concepts like this and really turn it over in my mind to see how can I do this without feeling like I'm forcing it.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I know we got to be checking out of here in a few minutes because we got to get to our thing. But I do want to have everyone be aware of what you're up to. what's next for you and your clientele, and what are you up to? Let's tell the people.
Well, I'm working one-on-one with clients right now, offering single Psych-K sessions that we can do, or I offer packages too. Right now, the one I'm kind of focused on is a foundation package that's 6 weeks. And that kind of goes back to the basics. It's about simplifying and really defining like what's not working in your life, where do you want to go, and what are the foundational practices and tools that we can get you in the habit of doing that will help you get there so much easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're looking at your website here. I love this picture of you. It's just like this totally like free woman on a riverbank or something.
Oh, that was the beach in Mexico. That was a really fun day.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like that picture.
It was funny because I had like that dress on the beach, and then to get to that beach, you kind of walk through the jungle.
Yeah.
And so I had a different dress in the jungle that was totally impractical for the place, but it was so fun.
Like no woman in a dress would walk through this.
Yeah.
Like
especially not barefoot.
That's what makes the most artistic pictures, right? Just like something like that.
It was just something, I kind of had this vision in my mind I thought would be really fun and like express freedom and whatever. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that picture. I don't think I've seen that one. That looks great.
So it was super fun.
That's cool. So they've got, people can contact you on energizedlife.com. What else? Where else can we go? You have your social media?
I'm on Instagram at Create Your Energized Life.
Okay.
And that's kind of the main place I like to hang out.
Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to write more blogs, so those will be online and
on your website?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yep, but people can they can go to the website and just book a session, or if they want to talk about, if they want to feel it out and see if it's the right thing for them, there's also a way for them to schedule a connection call with me to do that.
Cool. Like an intro consultation kind of thing.
That's totally free. I'm not going to be salesy about it because I hate that. I'm never going to push somebody into it. So it's just a place for us to get to know each other and see if this would be a good fit.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love it. I know over the years you've been helpful to me for things, helping me see points of view and perspectives that have guided me through my life. So
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
You've done the same for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, I'm trying to promote you here. So. But yeah, thank you for coming on here. I love what you're doing with the business. I love how it's growing, and I see the change in you that you've had over the years, as well as what you've done to help me and other people. So I thought people should know about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Life gets to be a lot more fun when you're being intentional about it.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks. I love you, my friend.
I love you.
All right. See you. Bye. Everyone.